Chapter 1828. The Huang family was that martial arts family. The Huang family was a martial arts family that had been passed down since ancient times. Among the martial arts families, they were considered the top. Therefore, every year, many youths who loved martial arts would go to Yunling Mountain to study under the Huang family. When the shop owner heard that Yun Jian was going to Yunling Mountain, he naturally wanted her to learn martial arts. The others were all tall and strong young men, who went to Yunling Mountain together to learn martial arts. There were also young ladies who would follow the tall and strong young men to Yunling Mountain to learn martial arts. Of course, those young ladies would leave after a few days. However, a girl like Yun Jian, who was carrying a shoulder bag, was obviously going to learn martial arts. The shop owner had never seen such a girl before, so he was surprised when he saw her. He recommended Yun Jian to get acquainted with a few young men in his shop, who were also going to Yunling Mountain. When they heard that someone was going to Yunling Mountain, a few young men who were eating in the shop quickly came out to greet her. After all, it was a very good thing to be able to make a few friends in an unfamiliar place. Hello. Are you going to Yunling Mountain too? My name is Song Jiechi. I'm going to Yunling Mountain with my brother, Song Jiehui, and a few friends to learn martial arts. Are you going too? The girl who didn't have time to finish her bowl walked out of the shop and greeted Yun Jian. The girl's name was Song Jiechi. Song Jiechi was very welcoming to Yun Jian. Yun Jian nodded subtly. I'm Jiechi's brother, Song Jiehui. I'm a university student. This is an activity organized by our club. We're going to learn martial arts from a proper martial arts family. A handsome boy stood beside her. He was about 18 or 19 years old, about 1 or 2 years older than Song Jiechi. He looked very similar to Song Jiechi. One look and one could tell that they were handsome and beautiful. The boy who called himself Song Jiehui politely introduced himself to Yun Jian. Yun Jian also nodded politely at the two of them. Little girl, don't be fooled by Jiehui and Jiechi's skinny looks. We're all from the same university. In our martial arts club, one of them is the president and the other is the vice president. They're very strong. Most of the boys in the school are no match for them. Another boy walked out of the shop. This boy had dyed his hair yellow. He looked like a local ruffian, but he was quite easygoing. He didn't feel like a hooligan at all. After introducing Song Jiechi and Song Jiehui, the boy stuck out his tongue at Yun Jian and introduced himself. My name is Lin Xiang. I'm in the same university as them. I'm a member of the martial arts club. According to Song Jiechi, there were 5 members of their martial arts club. Other than Song Jiechi, the other 4 were boys. These people were very friendly and Yun Jian didn't know the way, so she went with them. Song Jiechi and the others hadn't finished their wontons yet, so Yun Jian also walked into the store and sat at a table. In addition to Song Jiechi and the other 4, there were 3 other people who were planning to go up the mountain with them. These 3 people were slightly older than Song Jiechi's group. They were all in their 20s. There were 2 men and 1 woman. These 2 men were quite friendly. They introduced themselves to Yun Jian. Their names were Gong Yiba and Ma Chenggong. However, the woman in her 20s wasn't particularly good-looking. She was only about 1.52 meters tall, but she weighed 120 kilograms. She didn't even bother to stand up. When Yun Jian walked in just now, this woman glanced at Yun Jian with a strange look. Then she buried her head and ate her wontons. After eating the wontons in her bowl, this woman knocked her chopsticks on her bowl and chopsticks. She looked up at Yun Jian and asked in a strange tone. Chapter 1829. Adolescent girls were more or less rebellious. If they weren't rebellious, it would be unscientific. The woman who spoke was called Wang Gonggong. Wang Gonggong didn't look very good. Her nose was a little flat, but her face was covered with thick makeup. She looked like a typical gangster. Wang Gonggong, Gong Yiba, and Ma Chenggong were all university students. However, they were in their 4th year and were obviously a few years older than Song Jiechi and the rest. Wang Gonggong was a typical gangster among the female students. She smoked, drank, and went out to play with men. She didn't go back to the dormitory during university curfew. She fell in love and acted like a lady in front of boys. Although Wang Gonggong was ugly and had a bad figure, There were always some boys who were willing to date her when she mingled in society. Wang Gonggong was a quiet girl, but she didn't give any face when she spoke. Of course, this silence was also an act. As long as she was in front of a handsome boy, she would immediately change her tune and act coquettishly. Gong Yiba and Ma Qinggong weren't the boys Wang Gonggong liked, so she couldn't be bothered to pretend. Wang Gonggong said right away that Yun Jian had come to such a place alone because she had fallen out of love. Because a girl like her wouldn't think that Yun Jian was a capable person. Hey, what do you mean by that? Can't she come here alone to learn the profound martial arts of our country? Why do you make it sound like a girl can only come out alone when she's heartbroken? The first person who was unhappy with Wang Gonggong's words was Song Jiechi. Song Jiechi shouted at Wang Gonggong. Can't I say it? I think she came here alone because she's heartbroken. Wang Gonggong glared at Song Jiechi. Song Jiechi was so angry that she almost flipped the table. In the end, Song Jiehui calmed her down. If it weren't for Gong Yiba and Ma Qinggong's good attitude, Song Jiechi and the rest wouldn't have followed Wang Gonggong. Yun Jian pursed her lips and ignored Wang Gonggong. 1.5 hours later, they set off from Yunling town and finally arrived at the foot of Yunling mountain. After another hour of climbing, they finally reached the top of the mountain. As soon as they reached the top, they saw a huge ancient building that looked like a temple. However, its architectural style was completely different from that of a temple. There was also a plaque hanging above the entrance. On the plaque, from right to left, there were 4 words written in ancient seal script. Heavenly Dao Huang family. As soon as Yun Jian and the others walked through the gate, they saw a group of people shouting and practicing martial arts with an old man who looked like a cultivator immortal standing on the high steps. Every time he displayed a fist technique, a loud shout would come from his throat. Ha! Hey! This was an orthodox martial arts family. Are you here to practice martial arts as well? Seeing that someone had entered the door, the old man jumped down from the stairs. After instructing the disciples around him to practice freely, he walked towards Yun Jian and the others. Yes! Song Jiechi and the others replied excitedly. Yun Jian didn't have the time to stay here and practice martial arts with them. She did not forget her purpose, which was to get the letter. Song Jiechi and the others looked at the old man excitedly and respectfully, trying to join the disciples who practice martial arts. Yun Jian's words suddenly rang out in front of Song Jiechi, Song Jiehui, Wang Gonggong, and the others. She said to the old man. Chapter 1830. Yun Jian's words carried a certain authority, causing the elder to pause. Song Jiechi, Song Jiehui, Lin Xiang, and even Wang Gonggong were speechless. What Yulong continent, daughter of the Wu clan, sorcerer goddess. What the hell was this? Moreover, wasn't Yun Jian here to learn martial arts like them? Why did she ask the elder to meet the head of the Huang clan the moment she arrived? What daughter of the Wu clan? What is sorcerer goddess? Are you here to engage in crooked practices? Didn't you ask around before you came? The head of the Huang clan, Huang Bitian, isn't someone anyone can meet. Some people don't even get to meet the head of the Huang clan from the time they joined the clan to learn martial arts, until they left. You're just a lovelorn girl with no power or influence. Why would the head of the Huang clan want to meet you? Even Wang Gonggong, who wasn't very satisfied with Yun Jian, was in awe of the Huang clan, which was ranked first among the martial arts clans. After hearing Yun Jian's words, Wang Gonggong took the initiative to speak to Yun Jian. His words sounded as if Yun Jian had really come here because she was heartbroken and was here to cause trouble. Song Jiechi and the rest didn't say anything. The old man, who had been teaching a group of students who were also apprentices, was also surprised. Most of the apprentices who came to the Huang clan to learn martial arts were in awe when they spoke to the Huang clan. Not to mention Yun Jian, who directly walked up and asked the head of the Huang clan to meet her. She was totally different. The old man had never seen such a clean and tidy little girl with a shoulder bag say such words the moment she came to his door. Obviously, the elder and the people around him didn't know about Yulong continent, much less the sorcerer clan. Of course, Yun Jian said this because she knew that the head of the Huang clan, Huang Bitian, must know about the existence of Yulong continent. Putting aside how many times the head of the sorcerer clan, Wu Lan, had sent people to the Huang clan to collect letters, but to no avail. Just based on the fact that Huang Bitian had saved his master's life and left him a letter, his master must have told Huang Bitian a thing or two. However, the old man in front of her didn't know that. When he saw Yunjian open her mouth and ask to see the head of the Huang family, Huang Bitian, he was stunned for a moment, then quickly recovered. Is my Huang family's patriarch someone you can meet just because you want to? The old man immediately drooped his head with an unkind look on his face. Second uncle, what's wrong? Who made you unhappy? At this time, a young girl walked in through the door. She was about 16 or 17 years old, and was quite pretty. After the young girl walked in, she circled around Yunjian, and asked the old man. She wanted to see your father as soon as she came up the mountain. Of course I won't agree, the old man said to the young girl. His tone was completely different from when he spoke to Yunjian. His voice was much softer. Clearly to the old man, Yunjian was purely here to cause trouble. The young girl who ran in was obviously the youngest daughter of the Huang family's patriarch, Huang Ling. You want to see my father? Why do you want to see my father? He's not fun. But if you want to see him, I can take you there. Huang Ling, still had a childlike innocence. She turned to look at Yunjian and said to Yunjian with a smile, Linger, don't get involved. This matter has nothing to do with you. The old man pushed Huang Ling away and continued to shout at Yunjian. If you're here to practice martial arts in my Huang family, then my Huang family welcomes you. But if you're here to cause trouble, then don't blame me, Huang Bihai, for ruthlessly driving you out of my Huang family. Before the old man, Huang Bihai, finished speaking, he suddenly saw 3 young girls in black coming in through the door. These 3 young girls in black were extremely beautiful. Their appearance was second only to Yunjian, but they attracted the attention of everyone present. When the old man, Huang Bihai, saw the 3 young girls in black, his expression changed. His elder brother, Huang Bitian, the patriarch of the Huang family, had once told him that these young girls in black came from a family in a mysterious region. The people there had the ability to destroy the world, so they must not be provoked. Therefore, when Huang Bihai was about to bow to the 3 young girls in black in front of everyone, a voice suddenly rang out. Just when everyone saw Huang Bihai being so respectful to the 3 young girls in black, their hearts were filled with endless questions. They saw Yunjian turn slightly to the side. Her eyes flashed sharply, showing her side profile to the 3 young girls in black. The 3 young girls in black, who made Huang Bihai so respectful, moved their eyes when they saw Yunjian. Then, in front of Song Jieqi, Song Jiehui, Lin Xiang, Wang Gonggong, and everyone else present, the 3 young girls in black knelt down to Yunjian directly. They bowed their heads respectfully and exclaimed. Chapter 1831. The 3 girls in black were from the sorcerer tribe of the Yulong continent. Yunjian blinked. Of course, she knew why the 3 girls were here. The sorcerer tribe leader Wu Lan had sent people from the sorcerer tribe to the Huang family for a few letters. However, no matter how tempting the sorcerer tribe was, the Huang family leader Huang Bitian did not waver. The 3 girls must have been sent by Wu Lan to ask for the letters again. They just happened to bump into her this time. The 3 of them quickly knelt down and bowed. She, why are they kneeling to her? Wang Gonggong's eyes turned to Yunjian without blinking. Her pupils constricted slightly. Wang Gonggong did not hate Yunjian very much. She did not want Yunjian to die either. What she said before sounded like she was targeting Yunjian. However, Wang Gonggong had a habit of picking on people. Yunjian, why are they kneeling to you? Wang Gonggong was not the only one surprised. Even Song Jieqi and Song Jiehui were shocked. Surprise flashed across everyone's faces. This is not the feudal society of the ancient times. Everyone is equal. Where is your dignity? Could it be that she threatened you? Get up. Wang Gonggong was a very mysterious person. When she was in a good mood, she was nice to everyone. When she was in a bad mood, she was not nice to anyone. Seeing the 3 girls in black kneeling in front of Yunjian, and bowing to Yunjian with the etiquette of the Yulong continent, she could not take it anymore. Or maybe the 3 girls in black were too mysterious. People were all cheap. If someone acted like they did not want to talk to you and did not take you seriously, You would think that this person was good and want to get close to her. Wang Gonggong felt that the three black-clothed girls were quite mysterious, so he wanted to make friends with them and tried to pull them over. However, when Wang Gonggong reached out her hand, one of the three girls in black pushed her away and ignored Wang Gonggong. "You don't have to kneel here." After Wang Gonggong was pushed away by one of the three black-clothed girls, Yun Jian's voice rang out. Hearing this, the three girls in black who had ignored Wang Gonggong immediately stood up and retreated to the side. This degree of obedience was in stark contrast to his action of pushing Wang Gonggong away. Wang Gonggong's face instantly darkened. "Second uncle, look, this sister looks like a good person. I'll go call my dad." When Huang Linger saw this, she turned her head and winked at Huang Bihai. She then turned around and walked towards her father's residence. Huang Bihai simply couldn't stop this naughty girl. By the time he shouted, Huang Linger had already walked far away. After a while, Huang Linger brought over a man in his 50s. He was wearing a righteous martial arts uniform and had short hair. He was about to enter his old age. This person was the head of the Huang family, Huang Bitian. "Dad, it's this sister." Huang Linger led Huang Bitian to Yun Jian. She leaned forward mischievously and stuck out her tongue at everyone. Then she pointed at Yun Jian. It was apparent that Huang Bitian had heard about Yun Jian from Huang Linger before he came. Coupled with the presence of the three witches, Huang Bitian had basically determined Yun Jian's identity. He looked at Yun Jian and frowned. "You're the disciple of expert Bailey? The witch tribes. Which god?" Bailey was a surname. The expert Bailey that Huang Bitian mentioned was her teacher. Yun Jian nodded. "You can say that. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have learned all of this." "Then I can't give you the letter." Huang Bitian frowned and refused. In the eyes of everyone present, Huang Bitian was a supreme existence. The head of the Huang family. The head of the Huang family, which was ranked first among the martial arts families. Huang Bitian directly rejected Yun Jian. No one was surprised. However, they all thought that Yun Jian would definitely beg Huang Bitian for what she wanted. She seemed to be begging Huang Bitian for the letter. Just when everyone thought that Yun Jian would beg Huang Bitian to give her the letter, Yun Jian's eyes flashed with a murderous intent. Standing in front of everyone, her petite figure refracted the words that made everyone present unable to help but submit to her. In the next second, she flipped her hands and two butterfly knives appeared in her hands, one on each side. The blades reflected the sunlight, and the light from the knives blinded everyone's eyes. They couldn't help but squint. When everyone opened their eyes to look at her, they heard her cold words suddenly ring out. Chapter 1832. She had to get this letter. It was not only because her mentor in her past life had taught her these skills and allowed her to survive in that bloody world. Yun Jian's intuition told her that her mentor, Bailey Expert, had an inextricable relationship with the thousands of continents. She had sent Wu Lan to search the entire Yulong mainland, but she could not find any trace of her mentor, Bailey Expert. On Earth, as long as one was a righteous earthling, nothing could escape her eyes. In Yulong mainland, the power of the sorcerer tribe was spread all over the continent. However, she could not find any information about her mentor. What did this mean? The only explanation was that her mentor was neither from Earth, nor the Yulong mainland. It was more likely that he came from a continent of a higher level than Yulong mainland. Although Yulong mainland was not the lowest level continent. In the thousands of years since the sorcerer god's departure, Yulong mainland had fallen from its former glory of being second only to deity mainland. Yun Jian's intuition told her that her mentor was most likely from deity mainland. Yun Jian did not know that Ce had regained all his memories, so she did not ask him. Her soul returned to reality. When Yun Jian finished speaking, everyone's pupils contracted. Even Huang Bitian sucked in a deep breath. Kosha mercenaries. Slaying God. Apart from Huang Bitian and Huang Bihai who took a deep breath, Lin Xiang also cried out in surprise. It was obvious that they knew what these two names represented. After exclaiming this, Lin Xiang frowned. He didn't even know why he was exclaiming. These two titles, I seem to have heard of them somewhere before? University students would not pay attention to these things. Most university students would only pay attention to the opposite sex. They did not pay attention to national or international affairs at all. Sometimes, when the class subscribed to a newspaper, the newspaper would report on national or international affairs. Only then would the students pay more attention to it. Of course, the people who knew about organizations or people like kosher mercenaries and slaying God were usually those who were in this world. Huang Bitian and Huang Bihai must have heard about it. But for university students like Lin Xiang, Song Jiechi, Song Jiehui, and Wang Gonggong, even if they wanted to know, they had no way to do so. Haven't you heard a lot of things? You brat, you always say that you've heard of something big. Where did you hear it from? I can't tell you the details, so you should wash up and go to the side. Song Jiehui walked over and knocked on Lin Xiang's head as he said with a half-smile. Lin Xiang scratched his head and pursed his lips. I really seem to have heard of it somewhere before. But even so, whether it was Song Jiechi, Song Jiehui, Lin Xiang or Wang Gonggong, they were all shocked by Yun Jian's arrogant words. Perhaps Yun Jian's tone was too arrogant? Or perhaps it was because the titles of kosher mercenaries and slaying God sounded domineering. When they turned to look at Huang Bitian and Huang Bihai's reaction, they saw their eyes widen. When they looked at Yun Jian again, they were so shocked that it was as if they had eaten dog poop. They looked as if they had heard something big that they had never heard of before. Especially Huang Bihai, who had been rude to Yun Jian from the start. He was the most unsettled. His hand was trembling like a spring as he pointed at Yun Jian. He screamed in horror, "Why were you? Ahem." Huang Bitian was obviously smarter than Huang Bihai. He immediately stopped Huang Bihai from spilling the beans. Yun Jian's self-disclosure shocked Huang Bitian, but it changed his mind. Slaying God of kosher mercenaries. Slaying God alone was enough to wipe out the Huang family, let alone slaying God who had kosher mercenaries under her command. Therefore, Huang Bitian did not change his mind. He could not. However, Huang Bitian had already handed over the letter when Wu Lan had sent someone to retrieve it. After 2 seconds of silence, Huang Bitian looked at Yun Jian and made his request. Chapter 1833. Huang Bitian's words caused everyone's hearts to tighten, especially Song Jiechi, Song Jiehui and Wang Gonggong. Song Jiechi had even clasped her hands together. She was clearly not the main character, so why was she feeling nervous? It was as if she was the one who had to endure the hypnotism of the Huang family's eldest disciple. However, Song Jiechi knew that her current reaction was no doubt that she was putting herself in the shoes of Yun Jian and Huang Bitian. It was like a racing enthusiast watching his favorite racer race against another excellent racer at the critical moment of rushing to the finish line, which made him feel nervous both physically and mentally. That was how Song Jiechi felt at this moment. Yun Jian, who was standing in front of everyone, narrowed her eyes slightly. Her gaze was indifferent, but in front of everyone, she accepted Huang Bitian's challenge without hesitation. All right. As long as she was given the chance. Yun Jian had never encountered anything she couldn't accomplish. Yun Jian knew that Huang Bitian had taken a step back. In the beginning, Huang Bitian had kept his mouth shut and refused to hand over the letter no matter what. Sometimes revealing one's identity could save a lot of trouble. The reason Yun Jian brought up her identity today was to change Huang Bitian's mind. Yun Jian wasn't stupid. Unless she had no other choice, she wouldn't use the most absolute method to achieve her goal. For example, if Huang Bitian rejected her and she went on a killing spree, then not only would she be a lunatic, but she would also be a fool. If one were to ask why this was the case, first of all, Yun Jian would be exhausting her own strength to wipe out the entire Huang family. The only benefit she would receive was a letter. Furthermore, she would have to use her kosher mercenaries' influence to erase the Huang family's traces in history and on the international stage. It would be a waste of money and effort. It would be better for Huang Bitian to take a step back. It would be more convenient and simpler. Ling call your eldest senior brother out. Only then did Huang Bitian turn his head to look at his youngest daughter, Huang Ling. Huang Linger pursed her lips and muttered, "Dad, you could have just given the letter to this big sister. Why did you have to call eldest senior brother out? It's so troublesome. Besides, she doesn't look like a bad person." Just as Huang Linger said this, She saw her father, Huang Bitian, cast a sidelong glance at her. Seeing this, Huang Linger's words were all buried in her stomach. In the end, Huang Linger was still somewhat afraid of her father. She was frightened by Huang Bitian's words. She turned around and pouted, then angrily ran to find her senior brother. My apologies. Master Bailey's items have attracted a lot of attention in recent years. Many people have pretended to be Master Bailey's disciples and wanted to get them from me. So please forgive me. After Huang Linger ran off to find her eldest senior brother, Huang Bitian turned his head and cupped his fists towards Yun Jian to express his apology. It's fine, Yun Jian replied. Naturally, this was not a problem for her. Hypnotism was indeed her teacher's ultimate skill. Her teacher had also said that in this hypnotism, the most important thing for a scholar was talent. Those without talent would only be able to scratch the surface. Yun Jian was not boasting. Her teacher had told her this before. Her talent was the best among all the people he had met in his life. In less than 10 minutes, more than 10 people came into the house from the backyard. The man in the lead was about 20 years old. He had a dignified appearance and wore martial arts attire. He was the eldest senior brother of the Huang family that Huang Bitian had mentioned. The group of people beside the eldest senior brother of the Huang family consisted of both men and women. However, all of them wore proper martial arts attire. Clearly, these people were different from those who came to the mountain to learn martial arts. Chapter 1834. The orthodox successor of the Huang family's martial arts was led by this dignified man in his 20s. The group of people behind him were all successors of the Huang family. Apart from the Huang family eldest senior brother, any disciple that the Huang family head, Huang Bitian, took in would be included in the ranking. Huang Bitian's eldest disciple was this eldest senior brother. His second disciple was everyone's second senior brother, the second junior brother of his eldest disciple. In order of seniority, Huang Ling, was Huang Bitian's daughter and his youngest disciple. Thus, she was the junior sister of these people. The ranking of orthodox martial arts families was indeed complicated. Those who were not in the circle would be confused by this complicated relationship. In short, there was one thing to remember. Wuxia was the orthodox unique skill of an aristocratic family. The disciples of the head of the aristocratic family were the ones who were ranked among the senior brothers, junior brothers, sisters and junior sisters. They were different from those who came to learn from Huang Bihai like Song Jiechi and the others. It was not only in terms of martial arts that the aristocratic families only passed down to their own members. They only taught some simple martial arts to outsiders. In terms of physical strength and endurance, the orthodox disciples of the Huang family started learning martial arts from a young age. As for people like Song Jiechi who came to learn martial arts by themselves, some of them would leave after a few days or a few months. Their perseverance was definitely not as good as the orthodox disciples of the aristocratic families who started practicing martial arts from a young age. Master. The dozen or so people led by the Huang family eldest senior brother walked up to Huang Bitian and used the most standard martial arts hand gesture to bow to him. Huang Bitian nodded and waved his hand. Master, why did you call us out? Eldest senior brother of the Huang family asked. The Huang family eldest senior brother was called Huang Yiqing. This was not the Huang family eldest senior brother's real name. After the disciples of the Huang family became Huang Bitian's disciples, they were given names. According to the order, the men were called Huang Yiqing, Huang Erqing. The women were called Huang Yihong, Huang Erhong. These names were not particularly pleasant to the ears, but Huang Bitian felt comfortable using them. Of course, the Huang family eldest senior brother was already one, so the women were not named Huang Yihong. Huang Bitian's youngest daughter, Huang Ling was an exception. I only called your eldest senior brother. Why did you call out the other senior brothers and sisters? Huang Bitian glanced at Huang Linger from the corner of his eyes. Hee, isn't this for everyone to join in the fun? Dad, look, everyone is bitterly practicing martial arts. This is so tiring. Chapter 1835. The girl who spoke up was one of Huang Ling, senior sisters and Huang Bitian's disciple. Because she was ranked 9th among all the senior brothers and junior sisters, she was called Huang Jiuhong. As Huang Jiuhong spoke, she glanced at Yun Jian. From her expression, it seemed that she didn't like Yun Jian very much. Unlike Wang Gonggong, who didn't like Yun Jian, Wang Gonggong didn't have any bad feelings towards Yun Jian. At least, he didn't want to kill Yun Jian. Huang Jiuhong also didn't have any bad intentions towards Yun Jian. Ordinary people didn't encounter many things and wouldn't be envied by girls. That was because they themselves were existences that didn't shine. If a person didn't exist, they would be automatically ignored by others. But a shining figure like Yun Jian was a piece of gold no matter where she went. As long as it was gold, it would always attract attention. Huang Jiuhong only looked down on Yun Jian because she thought she could defeat her most admired eldest senior brother. How many people had her eldest senior brother use the hypnosis technique taught by Master Bailey? How many people had fled because of her eldest senior brother's hypnosis technique? Why did Yun Jian think she could compare to her eldest senior brother? Jiuhong backed down. What did Master teach you not to look down on others? Even Huang Bitian himself thought that Yun Jian definitely couldn't compare to his eldest senior disciple. But Huang Bitian was a good person. He gave face to everyone. Some people would stand in front of you and look down on you, mocking and ridiculing you. Some people would look down on you, but would give you face. When comparing the two, the latter would naturally be better. When Huang Jiuhong heard Huang Bitian's words, she curled her lips and muttered to herself, "What's wrong with you? You don't have any skills to begin with, and you don't allow people to talk about you? Then just wait and see. Watch my eldest senior brother beat you up." Once Huang Jiuhong gave the order, Huang Yiqing stepped forward and began hypnotizing Yun Jian in front of everyone, as per his master's order. Yun Jian could tell that Huang Yiqing's hypnotism was the most rudimentary and low-level technique he had ever learned. Perhaps this kind of hypnotism could be used in front of other people for a while, but in front of professionals, it was not qualified at all. The eldest disciple of the Huang family, Huang Yiqing, who was standing in front of Yun Jian, took out a rope with a small ball hanging from it. He placed the small ball in front of Yun Jian and shook it twice. Then he said in a delicate voice, "Close your eyes and open them again." These were all steps of hypnosis. Yun Jian did as she was told. Eldest senior brother is awesome. Let this overconfident girl know your strength. At this moment, Yun Jian heard Huang Jiuhong shout at Huang Yiqing. The surrounding people watched the scene with all their might. They were surrounded by people from all over the country, who came here to learn martial arts. At this moment, Yun Jian and Huang Yiqing were looking at each other and using hypnotism. How could they not be interested in such an amazing battle? Some of them would only get to see such an interesting battle once in their lives. Hence, they all gathered over. Those who could not all climb to higher places to watch. For a moment, everyone held their breaths. At this moment, Yun Jian opened her eyes. After Huang Jiuhong finished speaking, she suddenly said to Huang Yiqing, "Look, your junior sister is calling you." When Huang Yiqing heard Yun Jian's words, for some reason, he followed Yun Jian's words and glanced in Huang Jiuhong's direction. The moment he came back to his senses, his eyes met with Yun Jian's eyes again. However, there was an unusual color in Yun Jian's eyes. In the next second, Huang Yiqing suddenly hugged his head as if he had seen something he did not want to see. In front of everyone, he hugged his head and squatted on the ground. When Huang Bitian and Huang Bihai saw this, their faces turned pale with fright. Everyone's faces changed in shock. She actually managed to hypnotize Yiqing. She managed to hypnotize Yiqing in such a short time. This power, I've only seen it from expert Bailey. Huang Bitian was so shocked that he cried out on the spot. The words Yun Jian said to Huang Yiqing just now was the turning point in the counter-hypnosis. After hearing Huang Bitian's words, and seeing that the battle had ended before it even started, and that Yun Jian had managed to hypnotize Huang Yiqing instead, everyone present had the same expression on their faces. They were so shocked that they could not react for a long time. They just stared blankly at the beautiful girl. Chapter 1836. Perhaps no one had seen when Yun Jian had turned the tables and hypnotized Huang Yiqing. But in fact, From the moment Huang Yiqing asked her to close and open her eyes, she had already begun to hypnotize Huang Yiqing. As for Huang Yiqing's hypnotism, it had no effect on her at all. Later, she told Huang Yiqing that his junior apprentice sister was calling him. Everyone knew that hypnotism required many external factors to hypnotize someone. The process of hypnotism was also related to a person's willpower. By the time Huang Yiqing turned around, he was already affected by external factors. If Yunjian hypnotized him directly, he would see the horrifying image in his mind. This was the reason why he hugged his head and squatted down to exclaim in shock. Huang Bitian had already guessed that Yunjian was expert Bailey's disciple. Today he had asked his eldest disciple to hypnotize Yunjian to confirm that Yunjian was expert Bailey's disciple. Secondly, it was just a formality. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect that Yunjian's ability today was almost the same as Bailey shows back then. In fact, her talent in hypnotism was even higher than expert Bailey's. Huang Bitian opened his mouth several times wanting to speak, but in the end he swallowed his saliva and remained silent. Master, this means that she really is expert Bailey's disciple? Huang Jiuhong, who had been disdainful of Yunjian, swallowed his saliva and licked his lips as he asked Huang Bitian in astonishment. Although they didn't know who Master Bailey was, Song Jieqi, Wang Gonggong, and the others could guess that Master Bailey wasn't an ordinary person when they saw how respectful Huang Bitian and the others were when they mentioned his name. Was Yunjian really expert Bailey's disciple? Everyone looked at Huang Bitian in unison, waiting for him to confirm it. In front of everyone, Huang Bitian nodded. Yes. However, Huang Bitian walked over to Yunjian under Huang Jiuhong's shit-eating expression. He bowed deeply to Yunjian and said, I'm sorry for offending you in the past. Back then, I was fortunate enough to save Master Bailey. Master Bailey also helped my Huang clan to become one of the top martial arts families. Master Bailey's kindness to my Huang clan is far greater than the simple act of saving his life. Therefore, even though my Huang clan has been in a difficult situation all these years, I didn't open the letter that Master Bailey left for me, telling me to look for him if I was in trouble. Since you are the disciple of Master Bailey, I will give you this letter as promised. After Huang Bitian finished speaking, he turned around and returned to his residence to retrieve the letter. About 10 minutes later, Huang Bitian returned with a thick envelope in his hand. There were probably several layers of envelopes inside this envelope. The letter left behind by Bailey Jiao was at the innermost layer. From this, it could be seen how important this letter was to Huang Bitian. Once the envelope was handed to Yunjian, the latter unwrapped the envelope in a few moves. Is this the letter left behind by Master Bailey? Let us take a look. We've already opened it anyway. Huang Jiuhong quickly dispelled the awkward atmosphere. She walked over and was about to look at the envelope in Yunjian's hand. Just as she looked over, Yunjian dodged. Huang Jiuhong stomped her foot and pouted. In the end, Huang Bitian glared at her, and she didn't say anything. Everyone watched as Yunjian opened the envelope and took it out. When she saw the words on the envelope, her eyes lit up. Then, she seemed to be shocked by the words on the envelope. Seeing this, the surrounding group of people were somewhat curious. Even Huang Bitian was curious. Yunjian was the kind of person who could remain calm even if the sky collapsed. Huang Bitian felt the same way about her. When he saw her shocked expression, he couldn't help but be even more surprised. In fact, Yunjian wasn't just shocked. Her heart was in turmoil. However, she didn't show it on her face. Chapter 1837. Yunjian was rarely surprised. However, whenever she was surprised, she would only appear slightly surprised on the surface. However, for someone like Yunjian, who did not show her emotions on her face, a little surprise was enough to express the shock in her heart. The content of the letter was very simple. However, if one thought about it carefully, there was an inconceivable magical power to it. The content of the letter was as follows. Sha, my little disciple, although we have not formally acknowledged each other as your master, please allow me to address you as such. Were you surprised when you saw this letter? Are you surprised that I knew that the person who opened the letter wasn't family head Huang, but you? Were there many doubts in your heart? All these years I know your every move, including you as the sorcerer god. How is it? That brat divine lord did not mistreat you, did he? If that brat mistreated you, I will definitely teach him a lesson in the future. That brat has been pestering you ever since you were the sorcerer god. He is like a shadow. I have helped you to stop him several times. The next time we meet, you must treat me to 100 bottles of good wine. No. That brat divine lord should be the one to invite me. If that brat dares to not invite me, let him hug his butt tightly. Don't let me catch him and give him 100 whips. Alright, I know that you must have many doubts now. It is not appropriate for me to say too much in this letter. Alright, my little disciple, I will not force you to say anything more. My good disciple, remember one thing. If you want to find me, go to the hunting academy. I will wait for you there. The way this letter was written was indeed her teacher's style. The handwriting was also written by her teacher, so there was no mistake. Yin Jian blinked. She was indeed surprised by the words in the letter. How did her teacher know that the person who received this letter was definitely her? Could it be that he had the ability to predict the future? Furthermore, he seemed to have known her when she was the sorcerer god in her previous life. He even knew Ce, who was the divine lord. Yin Jian had not recovered all her memories as the sorcerer god, so she could not find traces of her teacher. And her teacher actually wanted her to go to the hunting school to find him? Everything was premeditated. Even when he was slaying God in his past life, his master's appearance was something that was bound to happen. Or perhaps, all of this was just a coincidence? Yin Jian, there seems to be words at the back of the letter too. Song Jiechi, who was standing in the distance, couldn't see the contents of the letter in Yin Jian's hand clearly. However, she could vaguely see that there were words on the back of the letter in Yin Jian's hand. So she reminded her. Upon hearing this, Yin Jian relaxed her brows slightly. She flipped the letter to the back, and saw that the same words were written on the back of the letter. Following the long letter in front of him, it was clear that his teacher had added a sentence that sounded like an old urchin. By the way, after you come to the hunting school, bring the Divine Lord Kid here if it's convenient. However, even if you don't bring the Divine Lord Kid here, I know that Kid is like a sticky candy, no different from a bum bug. Wherever you go, he'll definitely follow. When Yin Jian read this, her teacher's smug expression as if he knew everything like the back of his hand flashed across her mind, along with the way he gently stroked his beard. She twitched the corner of her mouth, not knowing how to describe her current expression of not knowing whether to laugh or cry. What's written on the letter? Are you done reading it? Can you show it to us now? The more Huang Jiuhong looked at Yin Jian, the more curious she became. If it wasn't for Huang Bitian's gaze, Huang Jiuhong would have leaned over to look at the contents of the letter in Yin Jian's hand. Since the letter is already hers, let's not crowd around. Disperse, let's go and cultivate. Don't crowd around here. Huang Bitian waved his hand. Master, this letter. Yin Jian was the one who took it from you. What's wrong with us taking a look? Before Huang Jiuhong could finish her sentence. On the other side, Yin Jian had taken out a lighter from nowhere and burned the letter. After doing this, Yin Jian walked out. It seemed that she had to go to the hunting school this time, since her teacher knew many of her identities, including her as the witch god. Then, did her teacher know the background of the mysterious person? And as the sorcerer goddess, why did she fall? Chapter 1838. Yin Jian was unaware of all these doubts and doubts. She had no way of finding them out at this moment. To solve her doubts, she had to go to the hunting school. Seeing Yin Jian burn the letter and walk out of the Huang family's door, everyone was shocked. Master, she burned the letter. Huang Jiuhong screamed in shock. The letter has been given to her. How she deals with it is her own business. Jiuhong, you are so impatient. If you continue to be like this in the future, then don't learn our Huang family's inherited martial arts. Our inherited martial arts are not suitable for someone as impatient as you. Huang Bitian interrupted Huang Jiuhong's words and said coldly with a sullen face. Hearing Huang Bitian's words, Huang Jiuhong was dumbfounded. Finally, he swallowed his saliva and was speechless. Yin Jian, who was walking down the stairs, turned her head halfway and glanced at the plaque with the words, Huang family of the heavenly Tao written on it. Then, She turned her head to look at Song Jiechi and the rest. If Song Jiechi and the rest didn't know the way, she wouldn't have found the Huang family so quickly, and she wouldn't have received the letter her master left for her so quickly. Yin Jian pursed her lips and curled her lips at Song Jiechi before she left. We'll meet again if fate wills it. In the vast sea of people, if fate wills it, even 1 billion people wouldn't be able to stop fate from meeting again. But if fate wills it, even if they lived in the same neighborhood, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens. After Yin Jian said that, she turned and left. Seeing this, Song Jiechi was stunned. Then she waved at Yin Jian and whispered, "Goodbye." After her rebirth, this was the first time Yin Jian went to the Inhun organization. Before her rebirth, she was an agent from the Inhun organization. The Inhun organization wasn't located on some remote island. Yin Jian knew the exact location. The Inhun organization wasn't under the jurisdiction of any country. It was extremely difficult for outsiders to enter Inhun organization. Some people couldn't even find the entrance to Inhun organization. The Inhun organization's base was huge. It would take a long time to drive from one end to the other. Yun Jian made a trip back to Longmen City and waited until the 10th of November to depart for Inhun Group. Before that, Emo's son and Adam were left in Longmen City. Ce had to be by her side, and Lan Su had just gotten pregnant. Adam naturally couldn't bear to take Lan Su on a long journey to Inhun organization. Emo's son was the elder brother. In consideration of his younger brother, Emo's son decided to return to Inhun organization by himself. Of course, during this period of time, Emo's son and Rockberry maintained the kind of relationship where they would occasionally greet each other when they saw each other, but neither of them would speak much. Luoberry didn't talk much because she was shy. When she saw the man she liked, she would talk incoherently. Emo's son, on the other hand, did not know what to say. Emo's son returned to Inhun earlier than Yin Jian. On the night of his return, he came to Qingyu's house early in the morning. Yin Jian snatched Qingyu's pillow and sat on the sofa, waiting for Qingyu's homemade pastries for her to eat. Qingyu had stopped researching poisons recently, and had started researching pastries instead. The pastries tasted horrible, but they were getting better recently. When Qingyu brought out the pastries she made herself, Gunyinji pinched her nose without giving face. Huh? What's this burnt smell? It's suffocating. It's good enough that I'm cooking for you for free. Why are you yelling? You're eating my food and staying at my place. You're even sleeping on my bed, and wearing my pajamas. You're such a busybody, Gunyinji. Qingyu retorted. Okay, let sister have a taste. Seeing Qingyu bring out the pastries, Gunyinji stretched her hand to take them. Sister Qingyu's pastries are getting better and better. Luoberry was a sweet talker. She stuck her tongue out at Qingyu after taking a bite. She shoved the pastry into her mouth, chewing and swallowing it without hesitation. After finishing the pastries slowly, Yun Jian closed her eyes and rested her hands behind her head. After 2 seconds of silence, Yun Jian suddenly spoke. You've been standing outside the door for half an hour. Aren't you going to knock? Are your legs tired? When Yun Jian finished, everyone's hands paused. Luoberry blinked and ran to open the door. Luoberry did not know who it was. She thought it was Sister Qingyu's brother Yin Yi. However, when Luoberry opened the door and wanted to call out Brother Yin Yi obediently, she was met with Mo Sen's calm and handsome face. She was so shocked that she almost fell backward. Chapter 1839. It wasn't the first time Luoberry had been so careless. Perhaps it was her personality. When she suddenly saw someone she wanted to see, she would be frightened. After Emo's son helped her up, Luoberry blushed. How old are you? Why are you so careless? What if you fall and hurt yourself? Emo's son yelled at Luoberry after straightening him up. What if she fell and hurt herself? He was about to leave and return to the Inhun organization. She didn't know how to take care of herself. What if she hurt herself again? I'm sorry. Luoberry shrank back from Mo Sen's shout. She couldn't help but apologize to Mo Sr. A little strawberry, you didn't hit him. Why are you apologizing? Can't you tell that he cares about you? Gunyinji walked over and grabbed Luoberry's hand, pulling her to the side. With that, Gunyenji was about to pull Luo Berry to the side. Never see you again? When Emo-san heard Gunyenji say that Luo Berry would never see him again, his heart tightened. Gunyenji giggled at Yunjian, then turned to look at Emo-san fiercely. She put her arm around Luo Berry's shoulder and said to Emo-san confidently, "That's right. My little strawberry will be with me every day from now on. We'll sleep together, bathe together. Oh right, we'll even rub each other's backs when we bathe." Gunyenji even reached out to rub Luo Berry's back. It looked like she was really rubbing Luo Berry's back. Gunyenji's words made Luo Berry's face turn as red as an apple. Yunjian admired it as she ate the pastries. She was so relaxed that she almost crossed her legs. "No." Hearing Gunyenji's words, Emo-sen's face darkened. He said it without even thinking. Luo Berry wanted to sleep with Gunyenji? Bathe together? She wanted to rub each other's backs when bathing? He would never allow it. For some reason, Luo Berry's face turned red when she heard Emo-san say no. "Ioyo, what right do you have to say no? I'm being intimate with my little strawberry. Why are you an outsider, joining in the fun? Speaking of which, my little strawberry's development is really good. Those two big breasts, I can't even hold them with my hands." Gunyenji smiled wretchedly. She even moved her fingers up and down in a circle to demonstrate grabbing breasts. There was no need to mention how wretched that was. At this moment, Emo-sen's face was as dark as it could get. The next second, he suddenly grabbed Luo Berry's hand and dragged her out. Before he left, he said, "I'm taking her away. I can't let her stay in this dirty place." Just because of this reason, he took her away. Gunyenji waited for Emo-san to take Rockberry away, then held her stomach and rolled around on the sofa where Yunjian was sitting. The sofa was very soft, and Yunjian sat on it, trembling from Gunyenji's actions. In the end, Yunjian slapped Gunyenji off the sofa and onto the floor. Less than 2 days after Emo-san took Rockberry to an Hun organization, on the 10th of November, Yunjian also set off for an Hun organization. On the 11th of November, CE had just returned to his residence from an Hun organization's base. As soon as he arrived, his eyes lit up slightly. His residence was surrounded by balloons, and the display in the middle of the room even had a big "Happy Birthday" written on it. Birthday? Only then did CE remember that today was his birthday. Since he was young, he had never celebrated his birthday again after his mother passed away. In the end, he even forgot his own birthday. Who released the balloons today? Who released the birthday wishes? Only the 4 leaders of an Hun organization could enter his residence. Other than that, if anyone else entered, the snipers outside would immediately shoot the person who did not have time to enter, regardless of gender. Just as CE was thinking about this, the bathroom door in his residence suddenly opened, and a petite figure flashed out of the bathroom. Yunjian, who had just finished showering, exuded a milky fragrance. Her hair was disheveled and was still wet. Yunjian only had a bath towel around her. Her voluptuous breasts were wrapped under the short bath towel, revealing half of her full breasts. Her little feet were bare as she stood on the floor. Just looking at her was enough to arouse one's desire. Chapter 1840. Yunjian had been in the Hun organization for many years in her previous life, so she knew the inside of the organization like the back of her hand. However, she had never come into contact with the leader of an Hun organization in her previous life. The Hun organization had a residence specially for the leader, but from what Yunjian knew in her previous life, the leader rarely came back here. Hence, Yunjian didn't know much about the leader of the Hun organization, CE. In addition, CE's residence was surrounded by an inescapable net. There were snipers on all 4 sides, and the place was strictly guarded 24/7. Even a fly wouldn't be able to fly in. Other than the 4 leaders of the Hun organization, Adam, Emo-san, Shui-ing and Lin Wei, anyone else who stepped into this place would be killed without mercy. This rule had been set by CE when Yunjian was in the Hun organization in her previous life. In her second life, Yunjian didn't expect that after going around in circles, she would escape from the control of the Hun organization after obtaining the kosher mercenaries with much difficulty in her previous life. After going back and forth, she was back here today. And today, She was in the room of the leader of the Inhun organization, CE. No matter how good the snipers at the door were, they couldn't sense when Yun Jian avoided their attention and walked into CE's residence. No one knew that Yun Jian had not only walked into CE's residence, but also decorated it meticulously. This lively style was completely different from the lifeless style of CE's original residence. CE's residence in the Inhun organization was all black, especially his bedroom, which stood out. Before Yun Jian came, the curtains in the room were all black. As long as the curtains were drawn, even day would turn into night. The bed, including the pillows and covers on the bed, were all black. The wall at the head of the bed was also black, except for the other 3 walls which were painted white, and some other places were painted with other colors that could be ignored. The entire layout was black. Yun Jian went into the house and blew up a few balloons. She wrote the words "Happy Birthday" on the screen. The atmosphere in the house was obviously much better, and it was no longer as lifeless as it was at the beginning. The room was filled with CE's unique scent. Yun Jian had been lying on CE's bed and taking a nap for the entire morning. It was noon and the sun was high in the sky. Even though the air conditioner was turned on, Yun Jian still felt sticky. Hence, she borrowed CE's towel and entered CE's bathroom to take a cold shower. However, she saw CE the moment she stepped out of the bathroom with a towel wrapped around her waist. Yun Jian wasn't wearing anything except a towel wrapped around her chest. She had just taken a shower, so the fragrance of her body made CE, who had just returned to the room, feel an indescribable feeling. He felt his lower body tighten. You're back? Yun Jian gulped and looked up at CE, who was walking toward her. Her red lips parted slightly as she held on to the towel to prevent it from falling. Yun Jian had no idea how alluring she looked to CE. CE stared at Yun Jian with a burning gaze, looking like he wanted to bore a hole through her. Yun Jian was a little embarrassed from being stared at. She blushed and looked down at the floor, saying, "Cough. It's your birthday today, so I came all the way from Longmen City to celebrate your birthday." Before she could finish, however, a familiar fresh scent that belonged to a man wafted to her nose. In the next second, CE wrapped his arms around Yun Jian, who was only wrapped in a towel with half of her hand still holding on to the towel. Yun Jian opened her mouth and buried herself in CE's embrace. She was so embarrassed that she could not speak. CE's magnetic and rich male voice rang above her. There was a subtle hint of uncontrollable emotion in his voice that was different from before. "Xiao Jian, you're so beautiful." Chapter 1841. Yun Jian's entire body trembled slightly. CE was acting very strangely today. In spite of it, Yun Jian had come prepared. A second ago, CE had placed his hands on Yun Jian's buttocks, causing Yun Jian's face to turn red. The next second, Yun Jian stood on her tiptoes, wrapped her arms around CE's neck, and kissed him. CE had not expected Yun Jian to suddenly kiss him. Her sweet lips were like ice cream on a hot summer day. Just as you were about to faint from the heat, your eyes were about to swell, your whole body was sweating profusely, and you were about to faint from heat stroke. It gave you a refreshing feeling. However, to CE, her beautiful lips were even sweeter than an ice cream on a hot summer day when he was about to faint. She was an existence that could not be compared to any cheap goods, because she was his one and only. Although this was not the first time she had kissed CE, Yun Jian did not know why, but she felt that this kiss with CE was very different from the previous ones. Perhaps it was because she only had a towel wrapped around her body today? Towel. Yun Jian suddenly remembered that she only had a towel wrapped around her body, and the towel only covered half of her chest. She was not wearing anything underneath. Yun Jian's slender arms and half of her chest were in close contact with the air, and it was chilly. At first, Yun Jian still used one hand to hold on to the shaky and unstable towel. However, when she saw CE earlier, Yun Jian forgot about this. She reached out and wrapped her arms around CE's neck, and kissed him on the lips. She only remembered her current situation when she lost herself in the kiss. At this moment, Yun Jian's face flushed red. Just as Yun Jian was about to withdraw her hand from CE's neck, the shaky towel on her body suddenly disintegrated and fell. That white towel had fallen off. In a lounge somewhere in the Inhun organization, Lin Wei sat on the sofa in the lounge. Beside him, Shuang was half sitting on Lin Wei's table. His slender legs, perfect curves, and that handsome face. Lin Wei's appearance leaned towards calmness, with a hint of handsomeness in his aura. Although he was handsome, Lin Wei gave people the impression that he was calm and experienced. The only flaw was the long scar on Shuaying's neck. But the deeper the scar, the more it showed his masculinity. Although it looked terrifying, it didn't affect Shuaying's handsomeness at all. At this moment, Shuaying was half sitting on the table. One of his slender legs was leaning against the table, while the other was resting on the ground. No matter how one looked at him, one could see how handsome he was. Although Lin Wei looked like an old Taoist, his appearance was young. His face was enough to charm a group of young girls. At this moment, Shuang shook his legs and looked sideways at Lin Wei. He suddenly teased, "Lin Wei, when are you going to find a woman to carry on your family line?" If it was in the past, Shuang wouldn't have dared to call Lin Wei an old bachelor. Although Shuang was the most handsome of the four great commanders, in terms of strength, Lin Wei was the strongest of the four great commanders. Shuang dared to say this today because Emo Sun had returned to the Enhun organization. Emo Sun and Lin Wei had a good relationship. If he said a few words to Lin Wei and Lin Wei got angry, he could still find Emo Sun to back him up. Lin Wei was a man of few words. Just as Shuang finished speaking, Lin Wei suddenly replied seriously, "Soon." Although these words were serious, Shuang rolled his eyes. Since when wasn't Lin Wei a man of few words? He still hoped to chat with him? Dream on. Cough, Adam's wife is already pregnant. You're already 25 years old. You can't fall behind. Shuang jumped down from the table and walked to Lin Wei. He patted Lin Wei's shoulder and said this. With that, he walked out of the office in a carefree manner. Along the way, he even greeted Emo Sun, who was walking to the office. Si Yi's residence in the bedroom. Chapter 1842. The moment Ce picked her up and threw her onto the bed, Yin Jian's cheeks were as red as a monkey's butt. She was certain that she had never blushed like this in her entire life. It was not just in this life. As slaying God and witch goddess 2 lifetimes ago, she had not blushed as much as she did today. Ce tossed the towel far away and tossed Yin Jian gently onto the soft bed. Ce's eyes were glued to Yin Jian. Even when he took off his jacket and shirt and unbuckled his belt, his gaze did not leave her. Ce exposed his muscular chest and stared at Yin Jian before making his way to Yin Jian, who was placed on the bed. His pants were still on, but his eyes were fixed on Yin Jian, never moving away from the deep gaze that met hers. Ce, who could be sharp and ruthless to others without batting an eyelid, was now attracted to Yin Jian. There was an unprecedented gentleness on his face. It was a gentle expression that might seem a little forced to an outsider. Seeing Yin Jian with her arms crossed and a smirk on Ce's face, his magnetic voice suddenly rang, making Yin Jian's ears tingle and her body tremble. "Xiao Jian, move your hand away." It was undeniable that Ce was getting more and more wretched. If the elderly saw him for the first time, they would only think that Ce was decent and reliable. He was not lustful and made people feel that he was dependable. If Yin Jian heard what the elderly said now, Yin Jian would probably smash them to death with a brick. It would be a miracle. She half covered her chest with her hand to prevent herself from being exposed to Ce. Ce had been looking at her lustfully since just now, and was even asking her to move her hand away. If anyone dared to say that Ce was not lustful, she would fight them to the death. In spite of it, Yin Jian was too embarrassed to move her hand away. "You." Yin Jian's blush was comparable to Chili's. Just as she spoke, her words were blocked by Ce's lips. The man was really self-taught when it came to kissing. Perhaps it was due to his previous experience, Ce caught her easily. Yin Jian was numb from the kiss, unable to muster any energy. She didn't even know when the hand that was covering her chest had been moved away and replaced with a bigger palm. Enhun Group's lounge. Ever since the noisy snow eagle left, Ling Wei's ears finally quieted down. He lifted his slender legs and stood up from the sofa. Just as he was about to go to the killer training camp, he bumped into Mo Sr. "You're going to the training camp?" Lin. It was no wonder that the two of them had similar personalities. They even had a general understanding of where the other was going. Okay. Lin Wei nodded. Lin Wei was the one who spoke the most when talking to Mo Sr. Snow Eagle said that you're looking for a woman to carry on your family line? Mo-san was not shy at all. I'm planning to. Lin Wei answered Mo-san briefly as he followed him out. Who are you looking for? Mo-san asked again. We'll talk about it later. Lin Wei did not have any requirements for his other half. He felt that it was enough for him to have a woman who could bear his children. As long as this woman was loyal to him and did not cheat on him, he would not find another woman in his life. It did not matter if there was no sex for love. If the future Snow Eagle heard Lin Wei's monologue, he would probably kick him and scold him. What happened to the sex for love? Go eat sh*t. There hasn't been any outstanding assassins in the training camp recently. Lin Wei had already arrived at the assassin training camp with Mo Senator. He stood not far away from the training camp and spoke briefly. I'll pay attention and send someone over as soon as there's one. Mo-san said to Lin Wei as they walked. In Si-yi's bedroom, Si-yi had already taken off all his clothes. The two were hugging each other. Chapter 1843. Xiaojian, you're mine. You're mine. Si-yi's breath blew against Yunjian's ear as he licked and kissed Yunjian's ear. Yunjian was numb from head to toe, unable to react for a long time. Just as Yunjian was numb from embarrassment and Si-yi was about to enter the main topic. Ding 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 ding. The doorbell of Si-yi's residence rang. A certain someone kept pressing the doorbell of Si-yi's residence like his life depended on it. Seeing that no one was opening the door, the ringing grew louder and more frequent. Accompanied by the ringing of the doorbell was a certain someone's desperate shout. Young master, I have something to ask of you. From the sound of the voice, it was obvious who had rung the doorbell. It was Shuang. Other than him, no one else dared to press the doorbell of Si-yi's residence. The ringing of the doorbell was like a basin of cold water, extinguishing the pleasant atmosphere just now. In spite of it, Yunjian and Si-yi were burning with passion. Even a downpour would not be able to extinguish their flames. Si-yi growled and got up from the bed, picking up the towel on the floor and running his fingers through his black hair before heading for the door. Shuang, who was outside the door, pressed the doorbell twice in surprise. His young master used to come out quickly. Why did he? Just as he was thinking about it, the door opened. Shuang was about to say what he wanted to say when he saw Si-yi, who only had a towel around his lower body. Why was his young master dressed like this today? Shuang did not ask, of course, but just as he was about to speak, Si-yi growled at him with a dark expression. You. Get out in 3 seconds if you don't want to die. His young master had never spoken in such a furious tone, but he had said it today. In addition, Shuang knew that his young master would only lose control of his emotions in front of one person in his life, and would only rage for that person. Shuang suddenly realized something. He was so scared that he quickly closed the door and ran away. Young master. I was wrong. I'll get out, I'll get out. Shuang ran like the wind, disappearing from the place in 3 seconds. Si-yi had the urge to strangle Shuang. Was it cold again today? Si-yi was so angry that he wanted to go back to his room to shoot Shuang. However, he scratched his black hair and went back to the room with a look of frustration. Yunjian was no longer on the bed. Yunjian had gone to the bathroom. Thinking about it, Si was even more furious. If Shuang was here, he would choke him to death. It was then that Si felt the room turn dark. The black curtains were suddenly closed by the remote control. His surroundings instantly turned pitch black, and no light could be seen from his 5 fingers. There was a sudden glint in Si-yi's eyes. Just as Si did not know what was going on, a petite figure suddenly threw herself into his arms. Si was only wearing a white towel. After the petite figure threw herself into his arms, Si could clearly feel that she was naked. Suddenly, Si felt someone bite his ear and Yunjian's voice rang out. Happy birthday. I'll be by your side every birthday in the future. These words were not a passionate declaration of love. Many people might not know what love was, but this thing called love had already taken root and sprouted in their hearts. Yunjian's words touched Si for a moment. Chapter 1844. If Yunjian was asked to name the one thing she did not regret the most after her rebirth, she would definitely say it without hesitation. The one thing she did not regret the most was being reborn and meeting him. There was no girl who did not care about her chastity, but she was willing to give her best to him and never regret it. This was Yunjian's wish as the sorcerer god. Whether it was her as the sorcerer god or Yunjian, she did not regret meeting him or becoming his woman, because she knew that she was not the only one who loved him. In his heart, she was something far more precious than his own life. Even if he had to sacrifice countless of his own lives in exchange for hers, he was willing. As long as she was fine. This was the wish of a divine lord. And a divine lord's life goal was not for anyone else, but for her. When the two of them were joined, Yunjian did not feel any pain because her heart did not hurt. Her heart was sweet and blissful. Although the pain of her first time was hard for Yunjian to accept, she was willing to do it for him. The wind was gentle and the sun was bright. Under the bright sky, it was a romantic afternoon. From 12:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., Ce did not let go of Yunjian. He enjoyed her beautiful body over and over again without stopping. What an Hun organization, what kosher mercenaries, what an Hun organization was busy with, everything was meaningless to Ce, because in his heart, Yunjian was far more important than anything else. 8:30 p.m. After being tortured by Ce for the entire afternoon, Yunjian was paralyzed on the bed and could not move at all. She had thought that knife wounds and gunshot wounds were the most painful injuries, but why were these things so tiring and painful as well? If she had known it would be so painful from the start, she would have waited until she was an adult before doing it. Yunjian even wanted to kill someone now. Why didn't Shuang break it completely? It seemed like she had to kidnap Si Luo. Of course, these were just Yunjian's thoughts. She did not regret being able to become his woman. Ce and Yunjian were sleeping on the bed. He hugged Yunjian tightly and refused to let go. If it weren't for Yunjian begging him to let her go on the bed, he would probably be able to fight until the next morning. As soon as they were done, Ce walked into the bathroom and wiped Yunjian's body carefully with a basin of water. She even wiped the blood off Yunjian's face. Ce didn't even care about herself. She first wiped Yunjian's body carefully, then went into the bathroom to take a cold shower. She came over and hugged Yunjian, holding her in her arms and smelling her hair. That was great. His Xiaojian was his now, rightfully so. If someone dared to plagiarize his Xiaojian in the future, and he spoke up again, it would be perfectly justifiable. Xiaojian, does it hurt? Ce placed his hand on Yunjian's stomach, feeling a little regretful about his earlier rudeness. Yunjian turned away and ignored him. Ce panicked when he saw that. He propped himself up and turned to look at Yunjian. Xiaojian, where does it hurt? Let me see. Don't look. Yunjian suddenly folded her legs and turned around to show him her back. She couldn't possibly spread her legs for him to see where it hurt. Ce had no idea what was wrong with him as he hugged Yunjian and rubbed and blew on her. It was obvious how much he cherished Yunjian. If the 4 leaders of an Hun group saw Ce's act of showing weakness, they would probably yell, "This isn't our young master." Yunjian did not know what was wrong with her. Since when did her voice become like this? Yunjian patted her cheeks lightly and shook her head in disbelief. Once she thought of what he did to her just now. Yunjian's cheeks were redder than a red pepper. They actually did it. Cough cough. Ring ring ring. At this moment a phone rang. As if to prevent awkwardness, Yunjian reached for her phone on the bedside table. Suddenly a hand went around her shoulder and took the phone before she did, placing it in her hand and telling her, "Don't move if it hurts. I'll do it." He would do everything. Ce looked a little like a pug trying to please its owner. Yunjian could not help smiling. She answered the call. It was Luo Mei, asking Yunjian to go out and play. Yunjian agreed. After she hung up, Ce's voice followed. "You're not allowed to go. You're still hurting." Wasn't she still hurting down there? I'm not hurting anymore. Yunjian suddenly felt shy. She pushed Ce away and quickly got up to put on her clothes. After Yunjian got up, Ce saw a red spot on the bed where Ce and her were having sex. Yin Jian was halfway through putting on her clothes when she suddenly saw this. She walked over and wanted to pull off the sheets. Ce grabbed her hand. "What's wrong?" "I'm going to shower first." Yin Jian blushed and did not dare to look at Ce. Chapter 1845. The bedsheet instantly became a priceless treasure in Ce's eyes. Yin Jian could not outtalk Ce in the end. She wanted to pull the bedsheet when Ce was not paying attention, but the soreness between her legs numbed her and made her legs wobble. If it were not for her good stamina, Yin Jian would have knelt on the floor long ago. Yin Jian, however, turned to her side and fell toward the edge of the bed instead of kneeling. If a normal person was tortured by Ce for 8 hours, they would probably not even be able to lift their legs. Yin Jian had just stood up to put on her clothes and take a few steps. She had only taken a few steps when the soreness in her thighs made her unable to stand up again. He had just gone at her for 8 hours. Yin Jian did not have any common sense, so she agreed to go out and play without hesitation, thinking that she could still walk. Now, however, her legs were numb. The lingering pain after the battle was not excruciating but soft. Yin Jian felt like her legs were like springs when she stood up, unable to move at all. She only managed to avoid falling on the floor by pouncing on the bed. Ce scooped Yin Jian up to his chest and pulled her into his embrace. "You're not allowed to go out today. You're not allowed to wash the bedsheet," Ce said domineeringly as he gripped her hand. His Xiao Jian wanted to run away the moment she became his woman? He would not allow it. "I've already made an appointment. I'll go out later," Yin Jian said, too shy to look at Ce's face. Ce, who had just had sex, was not satisfied yet. He had let her go earlier because he felt that she was tired. Now that he heard Yin Jian, however, Ce smirked. "Xiao Jian, you're not tired? Let's continue then." As he spoke, he turned and pinned Yin Jian on the bed. Yin Jian's words were shoved to the back of her head by Ce as well. Before she was forced to go 3 rounds, Yin Jian could only think of one word: beast. Soft and lingering moans could be heard continuously. It wasn't until 10:30 p.m. that Ce finally ended her assault. It was too late now. Yin Jian did not even have the strength to lift her hand, let alone look for the rockberry. Her legs were soft as if they didn't belong to her at all. Who told her that doing such a thing would consume so much energy? At this moment, Ce's hands were on her hips. Yin Jian suddenly remembered that she had agreed to go out with Luo Berry at 8 o'clock. It was already past 10 o'clock. She quickly picked up the phone and made a call. Beep, beep, beep. The phone rang 3 times. After 3 rings, Luo Mei picked up Yin Jian's call and said anxiously, "Yin Jian, are you okay? He didn't fall, did he? Nothing happened, right? I called you so many times, but you didn't pick up. I was so worried." Rockberry's voice was heard. The phone rang, but Ce pressed it down forcefully. He even set the phone's ringtone to none, before continuing to do the deed. Yin Jian had actually arrived at an Hun organization on the 10th of November, which was yesterday. However, she had stayed at Luo Mei's place for a night, so Luo Mei knew that she was here. Emo-san was very gentlemanly to Luo Mei. He had arranged for her to stay alone, unlike Shuang, who forced Si Luo to stay in his room. Yin Jian's eyes flickered when she heard Luo Mei's words. She immediately found a ridiculous excuse and said to Luo Mei, "I accidentally fell and couldn't move. That's why I didn't call you to explain." This was the most ridiculous lie that Yin Jian had ever told. She didn't expect Luo Mei to believe her. Are you in pain? Do you need me to come over and take a look? Have you seen a doctor? Wait for me, I'll be right there." Luo Mei panicked. She really thought that Yin Jian was injured, so she quickly spoke up. "I'm fine now. It's just a minor injury. You don't have to come over," Yin Jian said to Luo Mei with a hoarse voice. "Are you really fine?" Luo Mei asked worriedly. Yin Jian nodded. She wasn't really injured. If Luo Mei accompanied her to the hospital, the doctor would probably only say, "Young lady, don't overindulge in your desires at such a young age. Your voice is hoarse. Do you have a cold? You must have a good rest," Luo Berry added. At that, Yin Jian glared at Ce, who could not stop his hands from fondling her breasts, only to see the silent Ce flashing her an indulgent, handsome smile. Chapter 1846. Ce smirked, realizing that he was becoming more and more addicted to his Xiaojian. Her entire body belonged to him. Every part of her body was in contact with his soul. Even her toes were not spared. Ce arched his handsome face and reached out to pull Yunjian into his embrace. His hands moved up and down. Yunjian patted Ce's hand twice, but Ce's eyes were fixed on her. In the end, she was too embarrassed to call Luo Mei while being touched by Ce, so she found an excuse to end the call. Yunjian did not get out of bed for 3 days and 3 nights. Ce was like a beast that was about to starve to death now that he had tasted meat. It was the first time Yunjian felt extreme soreness in her back. In spite of it, Yunjian was still Yunjian. Her stamina was incomparable to ordinary women. As they were heading to the hunting school on the 15th of November, Yunjian stayed with Ce for a while longer. On the 14th of November, Yunjian returned to Longmen City with Ce. Yunjian was going to the hunting school for a year, so she returned to Longmen City today to visit her younger brother, Xiao Yunju, and the rest. Knowing that Yunjian was going to the hunting school for a year, Ce did not say a word about it. In spite of it, Yunjian knew that just like what her master had said, even if she did not bring him to the hunting school, he would go to the hunting school himself to look for her. The day before they went to the hunting school, Yunjian and Ce went to Wenning Elementary School, where Xiao Yunju and Duanli studied. Wenning Elementary School was beautifying the school recently. Not only were the students beautifying their classrooms, the school was also building a flat cement road. After Xiao Yunju and Duanli were done with their tasks, they strode with their short legs toward where Yunjian and Ce were outside the school gate. Brother Ce, Sister Yunjian. Xiao Yunju and Duanli rushed into the arms of Ce and Yunjian respectively. Yunjian pinched Duanli's cheeks and grabbed her hand. Ce grabbed Xiao Yunju's collar and dragged him to the kindergarten to pick up Duanya. Knowing that her daughter would be away for a year, Qin Yiru prepared a sumptuous dinner. Everyone sat around the table and enjoyed the sumptuous dinner. After that, Yunjian and Ce returned home. Ce used the excuse that Yunjian was going to be away for a year and pressed Yunjian down on the bed, the sofa, the door, the bathroom, after a round of suppression. Young men who had tasted meat were the fiercest. Yunjian truly understood the meaning of this sentence. Ce kissed and touched her, vividly displaying the word immoral. The next morning, Ce personally sent Yunjian to Min City Military Academy. When they arrived at the entrance, everyone looked over. Yunjian and Ce were not only compatible in terms of looks, but they were also tall and well-proportioned. No matter where they went, they would be a very beautiful couple. Therefore, they attracted the attention of a large group of students around Min City Military Academy. Yunjian did not enter the school because she had already seen Yu Shalua's car parked there. Ce grabbed Yunjian's hand and led her forward in 2 or 3 steps by Ce. Yunjian, you're here. Hurry up and get in the car. Get ready to go. Yu Shalua waved at Yunjian when he saw Yunjian. There were a few military academy instructors standing beside Yu Shaluo. They were obviously there to send them off. Yunjian could see that Yu Shalua's jeep was already filled with the 2nd and 3rd place Special Forces soldiers from the previous selection competition. After hearing Yu Shalua's words, Yunjian nodded. However, before Yunjian could get into the car, Yu Shaluo suddenly saw that there were red patches on Yunjian's neck. He asked, Yunjian, what happened to your neck? Were you bitten by a mosquito? Why did the mosquito bite your neck in the shape of a mouth? Are you okay? It's not good if the mosquito is poisonous. Do you want to go to the hospital? Yu Shaluo glanced at Yunjian worriedly as he said this. Yunjian's face turned red when she heard this. Unexpectedly, just as Yu Shaluo finished speaking, Ce suddenly grabbed Yunjian's hand and pulled Yunjian to his side. Then he used a cold tone to declare his sovereignty over Yu Shaluo. Chapter 1847. Ce was truly shameless. It was natural for him to be lewd in front of Yunjian, but he always wore a cold and expressionless face when declaring his sovereignty in front of outsiders. Even Yu Shaluo blushed when he said that, but Ce did not look embarrassed at all. Yunjian wished she could find a hole to crawl into. Instructor, we can go now. I'm fine. Yin Jian tugged at the corner of her lips, trying to change the topic. In spite of it, Siyi's grip on her hand was tight as Siyi spoke to Yu Xiaoluo shamelessly. Cough, cough, cough. Even Yu Xiaoluo's ears were red as he coughed a few times to express his awkwardness. He had seen the redness on Yin Jian's neck all of a sudden, and was afraid that she was bitten by something or had an allergic reaction. He was worried that Yin Jian's ability would be affected if she was sent to the hunting school. Never had Yu Xiaoluo imagined that it was left behind after a young couple's love affair. If he had known, he would not have asked even if he was beaten to death. Get in. Yu Xiaoluo turned to look at Yun Jian and told Yun Jian, trying to cover up the awkward atmosphere just now. Yun Jian nodded, and was about to ask Ce to let go of her hand when he suddenly spoke. Yu Xiaoluo, who was already on his way to the driver's seat, knocked his head against the door, causing a huge bump to form on his head from the pain. Ce was still holding on to Yu Xiaoluo's hand as he asked, Xiao Jian, does it still hurt there? He had just finished talking about the red strawberry, and now he was bringing it up. Even a proper man like Yu Xiaoluo could not help letting his imagination run wild. It doesn't hurt anymore. Let go. Yin Jian's rosy cheeks made Ce reluctant to let her go. It was just a hunting school. It was easy for him to see her. There would be plenty of time for him to take his time. He would make her pregnant with his child. That's right, Ce had been up to some tricks these days. When Ce slept with his Xiao Jian, he never used the condom and penetrated her directly every time. Yin Jian had probably forgotten about the existence of this thing long ago. Yin Jian might be powerful, but she knew nothing about this. As for Ce, he had already read up on such books. Naturally, he was better than Yun Jian, who hadn't done any research. Ce's ultimate goal was obvious. He wanted to stuff a tiny Ce in Xiao Jian's stomach. This is great. Yin Jian finally got into the jeep. Under Ce's watchful gaze, she left the place and parted with Ce for a short while. Ce watched Yin Jian's jeep disappear from his sight before he boarded the private helicopter that Mo's son sent to fetch him back to an Hun group and left Longmen City. Nothing had changed. Some things, however, might have changed drastically when Yin Jian returned. Sitting in the jeep, Yin Jian tilted her head to look out of the window with squinted eyes. Cough. I can see that he cares a lot about you, Yin Jian. If it were someone else, puppy love, I definitely wouldn't support it. But if it's you guys, I'll give you my blessings. Young couples like you two can be sweet for the rest of your lives. I'm so envious of you two youngsters. Yu Xiaoluo suddenly spoke to Yin Jian. There was a hint of emotion in his words, making Yin Jian nod slightly. In just a few minutes, they returned to the main topic. Yu Xiaoluo immediately told Yin Jian, and the rest of the arrangements. Chapter 1848. The hunting school had been held many times, and this year, it was already the 19th season. The mortality rate and elimination rate of the hunting school were very high, so it was the burial ground of the special forces. At the same time, it was also the destination of all the special forces in the world. Anyone who graduated from the hunting school was top-notch in terms of strength and military rank. Today, Yin Jian and the rest were not going to the hunting school, but the only 6-star hotel in the world, the 6-star Empire Hotel in Brunei. The 6-star Empire Hotel in Brunei was the only 6-star hotel in the world. It was located in the city of Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. The Empire Hotel was located on the coast 40 minutes away from the airport. It was so large that it exceeded the standards of a hotel. There was a bowling alley, a badminton court, a golf course, a fitness center, a spa, and many other facilities. What was even more exaggerated was that there was a well-decorated theater in the hotel, which played the hottest movies every day. The 6-star Empire Hotel in Brunei had a total area of more than 180 hectares. It was one of the largest resorts in the world. Here, the price of staying at an imperial hotel for a night was scarily low among the upper class. Only 100,000 yuan was needed to enjoy the imperial treatment. If ordinary people heard this, they might faint from shock. It was indeed expensive, but to the rich, this price was nothing. Moreover, they were staying in an imperial suite. After all, the imperial treatment was different from ordinary hotels. Here, one could enjoy everything that one could enjoy outside. Beauty treatments, dramas, movies, you name it, you could find it here. Of course, the hunting school paid for the members who were about to participate in the hunting school's training. Therefore, after arranging for Yun Jian and the rest to stay here, Yu Shaluo returned to Country Z. Because the elimination rate and death rate of the hunting school were very high, all the members were invited here. It was similar to the last sumptuous dinner before being beheaded in ancient times. After Yun Jian and the rest arrived, Yu Shaluo left. The three special forces representing Country Z walked into the living room of the 6-star Empire Hotel in Brunei. Just the living room alone was magnificent and luxurious. It was so luxurious that people did not dare to breathe. The two special forces soldiers who came with Yun Jian were above 40 years old. Therefore, Yun Jian looked a little younger with them. The two of them had obviously never stayed in such a luxurious place before, so when they walked into the hall, they didn't know where to stay. Moreover, they didn't even know how to speak this country's language. Yun Jian went to the counter while the two of them were at a loss. She knocked on the counter and spoke to the foreign attendant in Dubai's local Arabic under her gaze. "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Hunting school members from Z country, 3 of them. Please check in." It was not Yun Jian's first time staying at the 6-star Empire Hotel in Brunei. She had been here a few times in her previous life, so she was not unfamiliar with the place. When the foreign waitress heard Yun Jian's words, she lowered her head at first. When she looked up at Yun Jian, she was shocked. The person who spoke was not from her country. This little kid was obviously a foreigner. How could he speak her country's language? She almost thought that this little kid was a citizen of her country when she heard his voice. And she was one of the Z country's special forces that was about to participate in the hunting school? "You can speak Arabic?" The special forces soldier who was with Yun Jian exclaimed after hearing Yun Jian's words. Chapter 1849. The special forces soldier who asked Yun Jian was named Yang Chen. He was born in an ordinary family. Later, he joined the army because of his good physique. He performed well in the army, and he was listed as a 2S wanted criminal with his comrades nearly 10 times. Later on, he even participated in a mission to capture a 3S level wanted criminal, and he barely succeeded. When he was 35 years old, he took part in a special forces training. Although it was not as cruel as the training in the hunting school, it was still very experienced. Yang Chen was 41 years old this year. His strength was equal to his age. He was not old, but he was already one of the best in the army. Seeing that Yun Jian could speak Arabic in Dubai at such a young age, Yang Chen was naturally surprised. The hunting school was located in the tropical jungle of Venezuela. The language spoken in the hunting school was Venezuelan Spanish. Therefore, before coming here, Yang Chen and the other special forces soldier Ding Jianlin had been sent to learn Spanish in depth. But they did not learn Arabic in Dubai. The world's only 6-star Empire Hotel was located in Dubai, while the hunting school was located in Venezuela. They were 2 different countries, and they spoke different languages. Yang Chen and Ding Jianlin did not expect to go to the 6-star Empire Hotel in Dubai before going to the hunting school, so they were not prepared at all. But they did not expect that Yun Jian could speak Arabic. But after being stunned for a short while, they reacted quickly. Yun Jian could win the first place in the preliminaries, and was valued by the leaders at such a young age. Her strength was definitely not bad, so it was not surprising that she could speak Arabic. Just when Yang Chen and Ding Jianlin were thinking about this, Yun Jian had taken their room cards from the front desk and handed them to Yang Chen and Ding Jianlin. Room cards. Yang Chen and Ding Jianlin took their room cards, feeling a little scared. The hunting school was famous for its inhumane devil training, and the 3 of them represented Z country to participate in the training. Their ultimate goal was to win glory for their country. Before entering the hunting school, of course they were scared. What were they scared of? They were scared that they could not win glory for their country. But how come Yun Jian was not scared at all? On the contrary, after giving their room cards to Yang Chen and Ding Jianlin, Yun Jian waved to Yang Chen and Ding Jianlin. and turned to her main room. While walking, Yunjian left them with a gorgeous back view and waved her hand. I will go first, make yourself at home. Yunjian knew the terrain here like the back of her hand. Chun Yang and Ding Jianlin were surprised that Yunjian could find where they lived without asking anyone. The two of them gulped. Fortunately, the hotel had a language exchange service for people from different countries. After asking around, the two of them found their respective rooms. On the other hand, Yunjian wandered lazily between the luxurious buildings with her room card in hand and finally came to her room. This was a hotel room with imperial treatment. Here, just the toilet alone was bigger than an ordinary hotel room. There was also a living room, kitchen, upper and lower floors, as well as an observation deck, a hot spring, a swimming pool, and so on. Yunjian took a quick shower in the bathroom and went downstairs to the shooting range. Here, the shooting range was not only about bows and arrows. The most popular shooting in Dubai was shooting with real guns. When Yunjian walked in, she saw many people holding real guns in front of various targets, learning shooting under the guidance of coaches. People who lived in the 6-star Empire Hotel in Brunei were definitely rich. Like Yunjian, there were a total of 31 people who were going to the hunting school. Not all the people who lived in the 6-star Empire Hotel in Brunei were members of the hunting school. There were a lot of rich people living here, and Yunjian and her group were just passing by. When Yunjian walked in, she saw many young people who loved guns from different countries were using guns under the guidance of coaches. Yunjian narrowed her eyes and walked lazily to a closed shooting room. The shooting room was the only room in the shooting range. It had been abandoned for more than a year, and no one had entered it to shoot. That was because this was the VIP room that Yunjian had reserved in her past life. Other than her, slaying God, no one else could enter. She would enter the room directly every time she came here. Just a second before Yunjian was about to enter the room, a coach hurried over from afar and stopped her, telling her, "You're not allowed to enter the room." Chapter 1850. The instructor hurriedly ran over to stop Yunjian. He did not explain why he did not allow Yunjian to enter the shooting range. All he said was that she could not enter the private room, and asked Yunjian to follow him to another place to practice her shooting skills. Yunjian narrowed her eyes at the sight. She narrowed her eyes because she was satisfied with the instructor's method. Or rather, she was satisfied with the shooting range's method. Slaying God had disappeared for more than a year. The last time she came to the shooting range in Brunei's 6-star Empire Hotel was a year ago, and she had not been there for more than a year. Logically speaking, if the shooting range did not see her and someone needed a private room, they could blackmail the person by offering double the price. After all, there was no shortage of rich people here. Obviously, the shooting range was very honest. If she did not come, the only private room in the shooting range would be empty, and no one would be allowed to enter. Yunjian narrowed her eyes and replied to the instructor, "Okay." She would go somewhere else to practice. She did not want to make things difficult for the instructor. The instructor smiled and asked Yunjian in a friendly tone, "You're from country Z, aren't you?" The instructor spoke fluent local Arabic, the same as his conversation with Yunjian earlier. "Yes." Yunjian walked in front. She nodded and gave a brief reply. "You speak Arabic so well. You sound like a Dubai native." The instructor could not help but exclaim. Yunjian did not reply to his exclamation. The instructor did not feel awkward and pointed to a spot for Yunjian. "Young lady, let's go over there. The people near the target are all from country Z. It'll be easier for you to communicate with them if you stand next to them. Moreover, there's only one target nearby." People who shoot in the shooting range would usually choose a gun. The pistols and rifles in this shooting range were all real guns. People who came from all over the country wanted to experience real guns. Therefore, the targets around them were already filled with people except for the one the instructor had mentioned. Yunjian nodded with narrowed eyes. Seeing that Yunjian was the same, the instructor brought Yunjian over. There were a few young men in their 20s standing next to the target. These men were dressed in branded clothes and looked very cool. There were also a few young girls in their 20s standing beside them. They were all dressed in famous brands, and even their hands and necks were full of luxurious luxury goods. They were all from Z country, and had been playing with guns under the instruction of their coach. At this moment, one of the more handsome young men was holding a pistol with both hands and shooting targets under the instruction of the coach. The other young men and girls watched the young man play with the gun. Li Wei, you can do it. Show us how you hit the bullseye with your first shot. The young men and women next to him were shouting at the handsome young man who was holding a pistol and aiming it at the target with trembling hands. Hearing this shout, Yunjian walked over. She could clearly see that the young man called Li Wei's hands were trembling. It was obvious that he wanted to stand out in front of a group of people, but he didn't have the confidence to hit the mark. The young man was called Shin Li Wei. Bang! The shot was fired in the end. Shin Li Wei's hand holding the pistol trembled. When a real gun fired a bullet, the sound of the gunshot was especially loud. The gun would also shake twice with the impulse of the shot. At this time, the person holding the gun had to hold the gun steady. Generally, people who played with guns would be shocked by the shot of the gun every time. This man called Shin Li Wei was no exception. His body trembled slightly. When playing with a real gun, the scariest thing was to hurt oneself. People who weren't familiar with guns would tremble because of fear. Hit the bullseye. The instructor's voice sounded, making the man called Shin Li Wei heave a big sigh of relief. A few young people praised him from the side. Wow. Although it's not the bullseye, it's his first time playing with a gun, and he hit the bullseye. Our Li Wei is indeed a gun expert. Just when Shin Li Wei was enjoying the praise from the people around him, he and the people around him suddenly saw a petite and slender figure walking around the crowd. They saw Yun Jian standing on the target. She picked up the pistol on the table and loaded it without waiting for the instructor behind her to come over. She skillfully held the gun with one hand and fired 3 shots at the bullseye without even looking. The gunshot sounded again. 10. 10 bullseye. The instructor stood forward and opened his eyes wide. Under the shocked gaze of the group of young people, Yun Jian put down the gun and said to the instructor, who followed her in horror. Chapter 1851. Generally, the effective range of a handgun was around 50 to 100 meters. Any further and it would not be accurate. Those who could pull out a gun and hit someone within 30 meters were sharpshooters. However, the maximum range of a handgun was far more than that. Of course, it was possible to use a handgun to shoot something beyond 100 meters. However, beyond 100 meters, it would be very difficult to shoot accurately. Therefore, the maximum range of a shooting gallery like this was usually around 50 to 100 meters. Any further and there would not be a place for people to continue shooting. After all, this was not a special forces training base. It was a place for tourists to experience shooting. However, normal tourists would have a certain degree of difficulty even if they were to shoot at a 20-meter target. Therefore, most of the targets around here were only 20 meters. After hearing Yun Jian's words and seeing Yun Jian's amazing shooting skills just now, 3 bullets were fired consecutively and all of them hit the bullseye. That was not all. She even said that she wanted the target to be adjusted to the furthest shooting range, because the maximum range of a gun was not just 100 meters. However, in a shooting gallery, the maximum range that could be adjusted was only 100 meters. 100 meters. Could she do it? Just now, Yun Jian was speaking in Chinese. Therefore, the young people beside her who had just shot a bullseye as if they had won the world championship could understand what Yun Jian was saying. The coach also spoke Chinese. Naturally, he could understand. Therefore, when they heard Yun Jian's words, the young men and women, including the coaches around them, were all shocked. Young lady, are you sure? You really want to adjust the target to the maximum range? 100 meters? The coach was in disbelief, hitting 3 bullseye within 20 meters. Yun Jian's result had already made everyone present exclaim. She was indeed amazing. The coach behind Yun Jian initially thought that Yun Jian did not know how to use a gun. However, the feeling of shooting a target with a 20-meter range was different from shooting a target with a 100-meter range. This was a difference of 80 meters. There was a difference of 80 meters between them. What kind of concept was that? For example, a sharpshooter who could pull out a gun and shoot a person within 30 meters was a sharpshooter. However, if a sharpshooter who could pull out a gun and shoot a person within 30 meters was able to shoot a person 100 meters away, it was a completely different concept. Even the coaches in the shooting gallery did not have many who could hit the bullseye within 100 meters. At a distance of 100 meters, even hitting the target was a problem. Of course, I'm sure. Yin Jian glanced at the coach and said in front of the dumbfounded young people, a target 100 meters away was still too close for her. However, the furthest range here was only a few meters. After all, even though this shooting gallery was large, it was still within the gallery. There was no shooting range as far as the eye could see. This was the reason why Yun Jian wanted to enter the gallery. The furthest shooting range of her box was 200 meters. Okay, I'll go move it. After hearing Yun Jian's words, the coach took a deep breath. Just as he was about to order someone to move the bullseye, Yun Jian interrupted him. There's no need, Yun Jian said abruptly. Hearing this, the young men and women standing nearby all breathed a sigh of relief for some reason. Even though Yun Jian had amazed them, after hearing Yun Jian's words, they still thought to themselves. Indeed, hitting the bullseye within 20 meters with 3 bullseye was already the limit. This young lady said that she wanted to shoot the bullseye within 100 meters. Was she trying to be brave? Just as these young men and women were thinking this, Yun Jian's words rang out again. Yun Jian's words immediately made the young men and women widen their eyes. The coach was even more shocked. When Yun Jian saw a girl at the entrance of the shooting gallery, she narrowed her eyes and said, "You're right." Chapter 1852. Yun Jian wasn't bragging, but shooting from 20 meters and 100 meters with a pistol wasn't shooting at all. To her, it was like a child playing house. It wasn't challenging at all. To put it bluntly, to Yun Jian, there was no difference between playing and not playing at all. The effective range of a pistol wasn't far. An ordinary pistol's effective range might only be 50 to 100 meters, but some pistols had a longer range, such as the assault pistol. Of course, the specific range depended on how the person operating the pistol handled their weapon. Yun Jian didn't come to the shooting range to play with pistols. When Yun Jian saw the woman who came in, she waved at the coach and made her way to her. This woman was the person in charge of the shooting range. She was also the god of marksmanship who broke the record for the world's longest sniper rifle. The woman's name was Luoxi. Seeing Yun Jian walking toward Luoxi, the coach's heart almost jumped to his head. Luoxi was the person in charge of their shooting range. Most importantly, Luoxi was ruthless. If an ordinary person dared to provoke her, Luoxi's lightest punishment would be to break one of their legs. Note that this was the lightest punishment. Little girl. You. When the coach reacted and wanted to call Yun Jian back, Yun Jian was already in front of Luoxi. The coach didn't dare to go forward. He covered his face and exclaimed, "Oh my God," in their Dubai Arabic. Then, who is that woman? Shen Liwei and the others who were standing beside Yun Jian just now were suspicious when they saw Yun Jian walking toward the woman. They asked their coaches about it when they saw how frightened their coaches were. As soon as the question was asked, Shen Liwei and the others' coach's face instantly changed. Then, under their questioning, he softly said to them, "She's the person in charge of our shooting range, Luoxi. She's also the terrifying woman who broke the record for the world's longest sniper rifle. She's known as the god of marksmanship. She's internationally famous. Luoxi is ruthless. In the past, a coach in our shooting range accidentally provoked her and was shot dead by her on the spot. The people who hung out with Luoxi were all internationally famous people." The coach's words went without saying. What he meant was that the people who played with Luoxi were all demons who killed without batting an eyelid. There was no doubt that they were the international leaders of the underworld, the military families, and so on. Therefore, even if Luoxi killed someone, she wasn't afraid. Because he had a backer. Hearing the coach's words, the young men and women led by Shen Liwei all took a deep breath. Shen Liwei and the others were all young masters and daughters of rich families. Coming out to play this time was purely entertainment for rich people like them. With money, they could go wherever they wanted and play in whichever country they wanted. No one could stop them. However, they were all children of legitimate merchants. Although they were rich, they had never heard of such a dark matter. Thus at this moment, they were all a little flustered. At this moment, Yunjian walked over to Luoxi. She didn't treat Luoxi with respect like the coach at all. On the contrary, Yunjian walked directly behind Luoxi. Before Luoxi could react, she walked behind Luoxi and knocked her on the head with a chestnut. This action, the coaches in the distance, including Shen Liwei and the others, were all shocked. Someone was about to be shot to death for provoking Luoxi verbally. Yet Yunjian dared to go over and hit the girl's head with a chestnut. Did she want to die? Everyone was scared half to death. However, they saw that Yunjian had said something. After Luoxi reacted, not only did she not shoot Yunjian in anger, Luoxi instead widened her eyes and looked at Yunjian. Chapter 1853. Luoxi turned around under everyone's gaze. Then, just as everyone thought that Luoxi had been knocked on the head by Yunjian and was about to fly into a rage, Luoxi suddenly turned around and gave Yunjian a bashful smile. The instructors, Shen Liwei and the others in the distance were shocked again. Especially Shen Liwei and the others. Wasn't Luoxi, who was known as the god of guns, a terrifying woman? She had even shot a coach to death because he had annoyed her. Then shouldn't Luoxi be an extremely terrifying existence? Just now, Yunjian had given Luoxi a chestnut with her hand when she walked over, rapping the girl's head hard. Even if a normal person was standing there, if someone suddenly walked behind them and hit them hard on the head, they would feel uncomfortable. Not to mention a terrifying woman like Luoxi. If the coach were to do what Yunjian had just done, he would probably be so dead that not even his bones could be found. But after Yunjian knocked on Luoxi's head, she said something, and Luoxi actually turned around and smiled shyly at Yunjian. This action made Shen Liwei and the other instructors, who were standing in place, open their mouths. Even some of the instructors, who didn't know what was going on, opened their mouths wide when they saw this scene. Perhaps tourists like Shen Liwei didn't know how terrifying Luoxi was, but how could the instructors not know? How terrifying was Luoxi? The instructors didn't know how to describe this woman's terror with words. However, just when the crowd thought that this was already the most shocking scene they had seen, in the next breath, an even more shocking turn of events occurred. After Luoxi saw Yunjian, she smiled shyly. Not only did her unchanging cold face turn into a smile, but she also opened her arms and was about to hug Yunjian. Luoxi was already in her 30s, but she looked like she was only in her 20s. Her skin was well maintained, and if she dressed up, no one would doubt that she was in her teens. Similarly, Luoxi always had a straight face in front of everyone. She never smiled or joked with others. But today, Luoxi's actions not only overturned everyone's understanding of her, but also made all the coaches go crazy. She actually reached out to Yunjian and hugged her. Not far away, a coach raised his glasses, craned his neck, and said in an English pronunciation that everyone present could understand, somewhat incredulously, "Oh my God, this can't be real, right?" Luoxi's strength was outstanding, which was a stark contrast to her cold personality. She didn't like to get close to people. She never hugged anyone, and only focused on shooting. For someone like her, she had dedicated her entire life to learning how to shoot. That was why she was able to break the record for the longest shooting range of a sniper rifle. She was also known as the god of shooting. This was probably the reason why Luoxi was still single. As long as a person abandoned everything to learn something because he or she liked it, as long as this person wasn't stupid, most people would achieve more or less. In everyone's eyes, Luoxi was such a cold and isolated person. But today, she actually took the initiative to hug a girl? Just when everyone thought that Yunjian and Luoxi were going to hug each other, Yunjian's expression changed. What happened next was even more shocking. Most people would be overjoyed if a woman like Luoxi, who had such high achievements and terrifying strength, took the initiative to hug anyone. But when Luoxi was about to hug her, Yin Jian reached out and stopped Luo Shi from pouncing on her. She gave Luo Shi a smile in front of everyone and said something that everyone thought was suicidal. Chapter 1854. Throw. This little girl actually dared to say that she would throw Luo Shi into the manure pit again? Again? It was obvious that Yin Jian and Luo Shi were old acquaintances. Could it be that Luo Shi had been thrown into the manure pit by Yin Jian before? Luo Shi, the person in charge of the shooting range of the 6-star Empire Hotel in Brunei, who once broke the world record for the longest range of a sniper rifle, and who was followed by a group of people who were not international leaders, world leaders, or business politicians. She was actually thrown into the manure pit by a little girl. This? At this moment, not only were the instructors in the distance staring in disbelief, but even Xin Liwei and the group of young people standing next to them, as well as the foreigners around them who could understand Yin Jian's words, were all stunned on the spot. Obviously, Luo Shi's identity was not ordinary. At least many people present knew her. They thought that Luo Shi would be furious after hearing Yin Jian's words, but what did the crowd see in the next second? They saw that after Yin Jian finished speaking, Luo Shi obediently withdrew her hand that was about to hug Yin Jian. Luo Shi was also trembling because of Yin Jian's words, as if she had recalled a terrifying memory. Luo Shi had indeed been thrown into the manure pit by Yin Jian before. The reason was that when the two first met, Luo Shi did not agree with Yin Jian. Later, Yin Jian directly threw her into the manure pit. After being fished out of the manure pit, Luo Shi also thought of taking revenge on Yin Jian. As she took revenge, she did not know when Luo Shi and Yin Jian started to walk together. And it was the type that would prostrate themselves in front of her. After hearing Yin Jian's words, Luo Shi scratched her head and then laughed awkwardly. Haha, how long ago was that? Why bring it up? Her face. Her face. She still did not give her any face as usual. Let's go. Let's go snipe 2 more times. If you lose, you'll have to treat us. Luo Shi said as she led Yin Jian away. This kind of carefree attitude was something that no one present had ever seen before. These coaches had never seen Luo Shi be so polite to anyone, so they all opened their mouths. Xin Liwei, who had just fired a shot and hit the 9th ring, was bragged about by his friend as if he had become a world champion. He smiled awkwardly. Then Xin Liwei and his friend heard the coach standing next to them mutter to himself and sigh. The person in charge of our shooting range, Luo Shi, has never been so polite to anyone before. Who exactly is that little girl? It was already evening when they returned from Luo Shi's private outdoor shooting range. After 30 rounds of sniper rifle shooting, Luo Shi's score was 0-30 compared to Yin Jian's. Luo Shi had been thrown into a cesspool by Yin Jian and had lost all her face. The reason why she had become friends with Yin Jian was because of Yin Jian's amazing marksmanship. She, Luo Shi, was someone who had once broken a world record. In the hands of Yin Jian, it was like an elephant playing with a turtle. There was no comparison at all. It was also because Luo Shi respected the strong that she had turned hostility into friendship, and turned her enemy into a friend. The restaurant of the 6-star Empire Hotel in Brunei was dazzling and very luxurious. Usually, when it was time to eat, there would be a professional international chef cooking here. As long as they stayed in the hotel, they could eat and drink for free for a day. Yin Jian stepped into the restaurant alone. After receiving the notice, the people from the hunting school would stay in the restaurant after dinner for people from different countries to get to know each other. Before dinner, they would eat separately. So Yin Jian came for dinner. Not long after she stepped into the endless restaurant building, a surprised voice came from behind. It's you. Yin Jian turned her head and saw a group of 6 or 7 young men and girls led by Xin Liwei walking over. The one who spoke was Xin Liwei. The moment Xin Liwei saw Yin Jian, he was ecstatic. He strode forward and stood in front of Yin Jian, as if they were familiar with each other. He stretched out his hand to Yin Jian. Chapter 1855. Xin Liwei was the child of a rich family, which meant that he was a young master. He usually liked to show off in front of the girls. The young masters of rich families usually placed a lot of importance on their own face. For rich people like them, face was the most important thing. And Yunjian's strength made Shen Liwei and the others worship her. The reason why Shen Liwei ran over to stop Yunjian was because of Yunjian's amazing strength. No one wanted to make friends with the weak and join forces with the strong. As long as someone was at a higher level, they would rarely take the initiative to make friends with people who were much lower than them. But if they met someone who was at a higher level than them, they would be like Shen Liwei towards Yunjian. They would be submissive, afraid that they would say something that would make the other party unhappy. At this moment, Shen Liwei was confident that Yunjian would be willing to get to know him. However, Yunjian, who was standing in front of Shen Liwei, only glanced at him slightly. Seeing Yunjian glance at him, Shen Liwei realized that Yunjian didn't seem to like shaking hands with people. So Shen Liwei quickly withdrew his hand and looked at Yunjian with a smile. In front of his friends and girls, he said to Yunjian, My name is Shen Liwei, I'm from Z country, we're from the same country. Cough this, and they're my friends. As Shen Liwei spoke, he began to stutter. Later on, he was stared at by Yunjian for a long time, and his face actually turned red. It wasn't because Shen Liwei had a good impression of Yunjian that he blushed. It was because Yunjian's strength just now made Shen Liwei have the impulse to treat Yunjian as his idol. In front of his idol, Shen Liwei began to stutter. Although Shen Liwei usually liked to show off in front of his friends, this was all forced out. Especially for someone like Shen Liwei, who was the richest in front of his friends. He had to learn some powerful skills to show off. When Shen Liwei was holding a real gun and shooting, he was actually panicking and didn't know how to move. But the friends around him were all shouting for him to hit the 10 points, which made Shen Liwei even more flustered. When he hit the 9th ring, Liwei Shen heaved a sigh of relief, and then felt a little smug. This was a normal reaction for young people. For example, in school, if you were to get first place in an exam, you would probably have to look at your classmates with your nose in the air. When he saw Yunjian just now, Shen Liwei felt as if he had seen his idol. He saw what he wanted to be like. Therefore, when he saw Yunjian in the restaurant, Shen Liwei ran over without thinking and called out to Yunjian. Yunjian raised her eyes slightly to glance at Shen Liwei, then moved her feet. Just as she was about to walk towards the dining hall, a young girl in her early 20s standing beside Shen Liwei shouted at Yunjian. You're amazing. So can you teach us how to shoot? We will be grateful to you. If you don't want to, you can name a price. We can afford it. I'm Ming Tiantian. Shen Liwei wasn't the only one who thought so. The few people standing beside him also thought so. Yunjian was so powerful. If they could get Yunjian to teach them her skills, wouldn't they become super powerful people when they returned? Shen Liwei and Ming Tiantian trembled with excitement just thinking about this. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. Before Yunjian could say anything, a burst of laughter sounded again. After the laughter fell, the owner of the laughter appeared. You bunch of brats still want to be her disciple? Don't even think about it. She has never accepted a disciple before. The owner of the laughter was Luoshi. Luoshi strolled over from not far away and happened to hear the conversation between Shen Liwei and Ming Tiantian. So she couldn't help but speak up. Seeing that it was Luoshi, Shen Liwei, Ming Tiantian, and the others were slightly stunned and took 2 steps back. Seeing this, Luoshi didn't feel that there was anything wrong. She glanced at Yunjian, who had her hands in her pockets lazily, and continued to speak to Shen Liwei and Ming Tiantian. Not to mention you guys. Even I was rejected when I wanted to be her disciple. Speaking up to this point, Luoshi first clutched her chest and showed a sad expression. After a while, Luoshi turned her head to look at Ming Tiantian and said to her, Little girl, no matter how rich your family is, it's impossible to be her disciple. Do you know how many people begged to be her disciple? Not to mention the international big shots fighting to be her disciple. Chapter 1856. As soon as Luoshi said that, Ming Tiantian, the girl who had asked Yunjian to name a price to learn Yunjian's skills, was dumbfounded. You're saying, someone converted $5 billion into cash and hired nearly 100 trucks to load the cash onto them, and send it to her to be her disciple. Luo Shi's words made Shen Liwei's jaw drop. Disbelief was written all over his face. But Shen Liwei still blurted out the seemingly impossible words with a shudder. Meng Tiantian was stunned as well. She had just asked Yun Jian to name a price. Her family did not have that much money. That's right. The scene back then was sensational. I've never seen such a sensational scene in my life. The money was like a drizzle falling from the sky. As long as she agreed, it was all hers. In the end, the person loaded the money onto nearly 100 trucks and sent it to her personally, scaring the neighbors. All she had to do was say, "How little, how embarrassing. Throw it out," and all the money was sent back. Luo Shi clicked her tongue as she recalled hearing Yun Jian reject someone who had offered $5 billion to be her disciple. These words caused Xin Li and Meng Tiantian to be stunned. The expressions on their faces changed from their mouths to their mouths wide open, then closing them again. They were so shocked that their eyes were wide open, like fish spitting bubbles in the water. That's why, if she takes anyone as her disciple in this lifetime, I'll immediately acknowledge that disciple as my master. I'll treat her like an ancestor and serve her. I'll have no complaints. If you spout nonsense, I, Luo Shi, will be struck by lightning and die a horrible death. Luo Shi was certain that Yun Jian would never take in a disciple in this lifetime. There were so many good seedlings in the world, but Yun Jian did not even spare them a glance. She did not even bat an eye when someone sent nearly 100 trucks worth of cash to Yun Jian. She would take in a disciple? T. Even if the sky fell, it would not be possible. Country Z, Province's Longmen City welcomes you. Since Luo Shi had boasted so much, Yun Jian would feel embarrassed if she didn't say anything. Just as Luo Shi was talking with relish, Yun Jian's voice came faintly, which made Luo Shi suddenly stunned. What do you mean by that? Luo Shi suddenly had a bad feeling. This kind of premonition was called not being able to keep the words that came out of one's mouth. One had to pay the price for one's words. My disciple Zhang Xiaofeng from Province's Longmen City, a student of Longmen City No. 1 High School. He's also the ancestor you're supposed to serve. Yun Jian's words suddenly rang out. Her tone was flat, but it stirred up the emotions of Luo Shi and everyone present. Yun Jian had already accepted a disciple? Although Xin Liwei and Meng Tiantian were surprised, they were not as shocked as Luo Shi, who had just made some kind of oath. Luo Shi knew that it was even more inconceivable for Yun Jian to accept a disciple than for a person to eat *T for food. But this Yun Jian, she actually... Did he take in a disciple? Are you kidding me? You've really accepted a disciple? Luo Shi turned her gaze to Yun Jian in disbelief. Yun Jian nodded and smirked, turning to Luo Shi and joking. Your ancestor is in Country Zhizhe Province's Longmen City. Don't forget. With that, Yun Jian stepped into the restaurant. Her long legs and the view of her back with the golden ratio made the people who stood where they were gasp. This doesn't make sense. Luo Shi shook her head and ran into the restaurant with Yun Jian in disbelief. Xin Liwei, Meng Tiantian, and the rest who were left behind gulped and followed them into the restaurant. Inside the restaurant was a buffet, so one could take as much as one wanted. Yun Jian took 7 to 8 plates of dishes and placed them in front of her. She sat down leisurely and tasted them slowly. You're eating so much. Luo Shi took a few dishes and sat opposite Yun Jian. Looking at the plates in front of Yun Jian and the ones in front of her, she could not help grumbling. Chapter 1857. Luo Shi pursed her lips at her words. Although Luo Shi looked young, and was only in her 20s, she was already 30 years old. She was already past the point of puberty. Luo Shi was at the age where she would gain weight easily, so she had to maintain her slim figure. Yun Jian took 7 to 8 plates, each one filled to the brim. Luo Shi was envious of how she ate without restraint. She would not gain weight no matter how much she ate. Yun Jian ate so much and she had a reason to say that she was still growing. Luo Shi pursed her lips and buried her head in her food. Right. What are you doing in Dubai this time? For fun. Coming to Brunei's 6-star Empire Hotel was indeed for fun. Yun Jian smirked faintly. Alright, I won't ask you. I won't get anything out of you even if I did. Luo, she said with a twitch of her lips. Don't forget that your ancestor is in Longmen City. Yin Jian reminded Luo as she finished 3 to 4 plates of food in no time. Luo, she was speechless. I'm sorry, I won't spout nonsense anymore. And Hun Group's headquarters. After Yin Jian left last time, everything in An Hun Group returned to normal. Lin Wei was still training assassins in An Hun Group's assassin training camp. Shuang was bullying Si Luo more and more now. One day, he even pinned Si Luo to the foot of the bed and nibbled on her for half an hour, saying that he was helping her avoid scumbags in the future. Si Luo was still young and did not know what this meant. She was bullied by Shuang for half a year. Other than being a little afraid of the scar on Shui Ying's neck, Si Luo did not mind Shuang touching her. Si Luo was naive and did not even know what it meant for a man to kiss her. Si Luo had been in An Hun Group for quite some time. Luo Mei had just been abducted by Mo Sun and was unfamiliar with the place. Now that Yin Jian had left, she did not even dare to step out of the house. The men and women in An Hun Group were all ferocious. Once, Luo Mei was surrounded by them when she went out for a stroll. They almost raped her, but Mo Sun arrived in time. The group was shot dead by Mo Sun on the spot. Luo Berry was so scared that her face turned green. After that, she didn't dare to go out. Somehow Luo Berry got to know Si Luo. After the two of them got to know each other, they kept in touch every day. Rockberry did not live with Mawson. Mawson was very gentlemanly in this regard. He arranged an independent residence for her, but secretly protected her. On the other hand, Si Luo was tied up by Shuang. After the two of them got to know each other, they quickly became good friends. Every time, Si Luo would go and look for Luo Berry. In the end, Si Luo decided not to go back and slept with Luo Berry. The two of them were extremely intimate. Shuang was so angry that he resisted the urge to look for Si Luo. That day, Si Luo went to play with Lockberry again. As they chatted, Si Luo mentioned how Shuang used his lips to kiss her lips every time they met. Sometimes he even touched her body. Si Luo was as innocent as a child, and because no one had told her about this since she was young, she had no idea what Shuang was trying to do. However, Luo Mei's expression changed after hearing Si Luo's words. What? He actually treated you like that? You're a girl. If other people find out about this, how are you going to get married? Luo Mei's words made Si Luo's innocent heart skip a beat. Huh? Then what should I do? Sister Luo Mei, can I sleep with you from now on? Si Luo panicked and stared at Luo Mei. Of course you can. I never thought that there would be such a shameless man in this world. You can sleep with me from now on. Luo Mei held Si Luo's hand and comforted him. Chapter 1858. Once he reached Mo Sun, Shuang went straight to the point. The woman you brought back kidnapped my woman. What's going on? Mo Sun glanced at Shuang. At that moment, Luo Berry was comforting Si Luo. Si Luo said that Shuang wanted to do intimate things with her every day. So Luo Berry understood that Shuang was forcing Si Luo to do intimate things. It was Luo Berry's first time hearing about this. She blushed at the mention of it, but she still told Si Luo what she knew. Did you guys use any protection? What protection? Si Luo had no idea that Luo Berry had misunderstood that Shuang was already having sex with her, so she asked in a silly manner. Of course not. That's too much. What if you get pregnant? Luo Berry said angrily. What's pregnant? Si Luo asked innocently. It means that you have a baby in your stomach. Luo Berry explained. Huh? Then what should I do? Si Luo's face turned green. 30 minutes later, Shuang brought Mo Sun to Luo Berry's place. What he saw was his wife crying on Luo Berry's body. Si Luo's eyes were red and swollen when he looked up at Shuang. It was obvious that he had been crying for a while. Most importantly, Si Luo shrunk back in fear when he saw Lu Sheng. Si Luo was no longer afraid of him, but he shrunk back again. Shuang almost vomited blood when he saw this. He walked over and grabbed Si Luo's hand, dragging him out. Don't touch me. I don't want a baby. See Luo shrunk back into Luo Berry's body. Shuang was speechless. Although he had bad intentions, he hadn't done it to her yet. How could he have a baby? Yin Jian didn't know what happened in an Hun organization. At that moment, Yin Jian had already finished 7 to 8 plates of food on her table. Are you pregnant? Eating so much. Yin Jian picked up a glass of water from the table. Just as she swallowed the water, Luo Shi suddenly teased her. After hearing this, Yin Jian spat out the water in her mouth. Fortunately, the food on the table had been swept clean, and the water did not splash on Luo Shi, but Luo Shi was still shocked. Yin Jian took out a tissue and wiped her mouth as if nothing had happened, but her face was slightly red. When he did it with her, he really didn't use any protection. Don't tell me I really got it. He only had sex with her a few hundred times, cough cough. After dinner, Luo Shi had something to do and left first. Yin Jian stood in the dining room and didn't leave. Shen Liwei and the others saw her and walked over. Shen Liwei and the others had just walked over when they saw a group of people entering the restaurant. Yin Jian narrowed her eyes when the group of people entered. The man in the lead only had one eye, and the other was a bloody mess. It looked like he had been blinded by a knife. It had been many years, but it still looked terrifying. This person could be recognized by his appearance. He was the person in charge of the hunting school, Jamil. When Jamil appeared, the surroundings quickly quieted down. Without a doubt, the people behind Jamil were all talents from various countries who were about to head to the hunting school. Elites. That's the person in charge of the hunting school, Jamil. A man standing beside Shen Liwei quickly recognized Jamil and exclaimed. Seeing this, Shen Liwei and Meng Tiantian looked over in fear and curiosity. Aren't you curious? Should we stand in front and take a look? I heard that those people are the most powerful elites from various countries in the world. They're all important people who are going to the hunting school. Shen Liwei stood beside Yin Jian and explained the situation to Yin Jian. How can a little girl understand if you explain it to her like that? It's enough for us men to talk to men. As for women, they can just stay at home and be good wives and mothers. They have nothing to do with it. Look at the elites who are about to head to the hunting school. Are there any women? That's why I said that women are useless. How can there be any women among the elites of various countries? That's impossible. Shen Liwei had just excitedly introduced to Yin Jian when a middle-aged man standing beside Shen Liwei, and the others said to Shen Liwei in a disdainful voice. These words were not only directed at Yin Jian, but also Yin Jian. The middle-aged man had just finished speaking to Shen Liwei, and then turned his head to look at the group of people led by Jamil. He saw that the petite figure that he had looked down on earlier was walking towards Jamil in front of the middle-aged man, Shen Liwei, and the others, as well as everyone else present. Chapter 1859. Jamil also had a military position in Venezuela. The hunting school was not an invisible school, but a school that trained the best students carefully selected from various countries. But the biggest difference between the hunting school and the general military school was that the hunting school was known as the world-famous devil training. And entering the hunting school required signing a life and death agreement, because the death rate in the hunting school was extremely high. Any accidental casualties would be borne by their own country or the person. The hunting school was also a military school, so there was nothing wrong with Yin Jian using the military way to ask to join the team. Return to the team immediately. Jamil just glanced at Yin Jian, a little surprised that there was a girl in this year's hunting school. But Jamil did not pay much attention to Yin Jian. Although Yin Jian was beautiful, in Jamil's eyes, strength was the absolute truth. Without the support of strength, no matter how beautiful she was, Jamil would not think that she was powerful. Yin Jian stood with the group beside Jamil under everyone's gaze. Yin Jian, you just arrived? Chen Yang and Ding Jianlin, who had already joined the team, looked at Yin Jian and asked. Yin Jian replied, I was eating in the restaurant just now. Then there was no sound. However, Shen Liwei Meng Tiantian, the middle-aged man who had rudely said that women were useless, and everyone in the restaurant, who had been watching the situation from afar, were all stunned. Yin Jian was a little girl from Z country, And Chunyang and Ding Jianlin were no doubt special forces from Z country. Since the two of them had greeted Yun Jian, then Yun Jian must have come from Z country to participate in the hunting school training with the two of them. Shen Liwei and Meng Tiantian stared with wide eyes, their faces full of shock. No wonder. Yun Jian's marksmanship was so good before. So she was an elite going to the hunting school. They had just said in front of Yun Jian that the elites who could go to the hunting school were so powerful. Now thinking about it, Shen Liwei blushed and felt embarrassed. After everyone had arrived, the group of people standing around to watch the show immediately realized that among the elites from various countries, there were few young people in their 20s, many in their 30s and not many in their 40s. But coming and going, all of them were men. Yun Jian was the only teenager who was a young girl. Looking from afar, Yun Jian's beautiful and slender figure was especially outstanding. Although she was not as tall as these men, her figure was the perfect golden ratio, and her fair and beautiful face was especially outstanding. In terms of gender and age, Yun Jian was even more outstanding. At this moment, Jamil spoke to Yun Jian and the others. Before coming here, you should know the rules of our hunting school. You must sign a life and death waiver. In other words, if you die from exhaustion or have an accident in our school due to your physical condition, then our hunting school will not be responsible for all the responsibilities. And therefore you still have the chance to choose. Stay or leave. Jamil's words spread throughout the venue. Shen Liwei, Meng Tiantian, and the others in the distance could not help but tremble when they heard it. The hunting school's life and death waiver was not a secret, but a public announcement. Everyone knew, but knowing was one thing. It was the first time a student like Shen Liwei had seen such a scene. It was the first time he had heard of a life and death waiver in such a serious manner. Since we're here, we won't back down. Someone immediately spoke up. Following that, there were a series of high-spirited responses. Seeing this, Jamil nodded in satisfaction. Then he paused and turned his head to Yun Jian. Jamil said to Yun Jian solemnly, "In our hunting school, there is no difference between men and women. There is no age difference, so we will not show mercy to you. You have to think carefully." It was not that Jamil despised Yun Jian, he was just reminding her out of kindness. As soon as these words were said, everyone's gaze fell on Yun Jian. A female student had entered the hunting school. This was something that had never happened in the past few years, and the other party was an underage girl. Naturally, the focus was higher than ordinary people. At this moment, Yun Jian raised her head and looked into Jamil's eyes in front of everyone. She pursed her red lips and suddenly curled up. She said something that shocked Jamil. "Your hunting school can train me 10 or 100 times more than ordinary special forces soldiers." Chapter 1860. The hunting school's devilish training was world famous. Not to mention a nobody like Yun Jian. Even elites from various countries might not be able to come out alive after entering. Or rather, it was unknown whether they could complete all the assessments and graduate with honor in this short 1 year. She, Yun Jian, actually had the courage to let Jamil train her 10 times or 100 times the training of ordinary special forces. Was she looking for death? "Little girl, don't you know what kind of place the hunting school is?" Standing not far from Yun Jian, a fat and strong foreign man with strong abdominal muscles raised his hands, said to Yun Jian in English contemptuously. Most of the people present could speak English, and they all communicated in English. As soon as the foreign man finished his words, some people immediately pointed at Yun Jian and whispered, "Nonsense! This girl is overestimating herself. She really thinks she's weak. Haven't Z people always been so arrogant? Ha ha ha." As the conversation went on, the foreigners even dragged the Z people into it. Hearing this, Yun Jian's eyes flashed. Chen Yang and Ding Jianlin both clenched their fists tightly. "Shut up, all of you." Hearing this, Jamil's eyes flashed as he spoke sharply. After that, the surroundings immediately quieted down. Entering the hunting school, there is no distinction of nationality, gender, age, and origin. In the hunting school, your past achievements are not allowed to be mentioned. After entering the hunting school, The school will give you a number, and this random number will be your name. In the hunting school, it is forbidden to call each other's names directly, and it is not allowed to mock anyone like just now. Violators will be expelled from the hunting school. Jamil's words resounded word by word, so that everyone present could hear it clearly. Everyone had to change from their casual attitude to solemn. Okay, let's disperse first. Pack and prepare your things and fighting spirit. 3 days later, gather at the entrance of the 6-star Empire Hotel in Brunei, and get ready to set off. The next year, it depends on whether you can survive. I hope that after a year, everyone can come out of the hunting school alive. Jamil added in a serious tone. However, everyone present knew that this was impossible. The death rate of the hunting school was right there. No matter how powerful the hunting school was, there would always be sacrifices. As for the path of the strong, if there were no sacrifices, how could it be paved into a wide road for the victors? And Hun's headquarters. Just as Shuang was about to drag Si Luo away, Si Luo suddenly said, "Don't touch me, sob sob. I don't want to have a baby, sob sob sob." This made Shuang, who had always been against Si Luo and Luo Berry playing together every day and even sleeping together, speechless. When had he ever done anything to her that would make her pregnant? This is a lawful society. Even if this isn't country Z, you can't treat Si Luo like this. She's very pitiful, just like a child. Don't bully her just because she doesn't know anything. You're committing a crime. At this moment, Luo Berry's words suddenly rang out. Luo Berry's words were directed at Shuang. To put it bluntly, Luo Berry thought that Shuang had bullied Si Luo, so Luo Berry wanted to stand up for Si Luo. Committing a crime? Shuang grabbed Si Luo's hand and pulled Si Luo into his arms. He glanced sideways at Luo Berry and revealed a cold smile, as if he had heard the funniest joke in his life. Shuang turned his head and looked at Luo Berry ferociously. "I've bullied many people before. Do you want to try?" Shuang was talking about bullying this time, but it was different from bullying Si Luo. At this moment, Shuang was glaring at Luo Berry fiercely as he roared. Luo Berry was shocked by his roar. Shuang. At this moment, Emo's son stood in front of Luo Berry and exchanged glances with Shuang. His expression was no less ferocious than Shui Ying's as he roared as well. Shuang took a look and was slightly taken aback. Then, he turned around and dragged Si Luo away. Si Luo she. Luo Berry couldn't help but speak when she saw that Shuang still took Si Luo away. Luo Berry had just spoken when Emo's son suddenly grabbed her hand. Emo's son, who had never looked into Shui Ying's eyes before, pulled her into his embrace and moaned softly. Chapter 1861. Being hugged by Emosen suddenly, Luo Berry trembled slightly. She awkwardly placed her hands in front of her chest. She did not know whether to put them down or hug Emosen back. To be honest, Emosen gave her the impression that he was calm and steady. It was as if he would always handle things calmly and steadily. But just now for her, he actually shouted back at Snow Eagle in such a loud voice. "Did I say something wrong?" Luo Berry lowered her head awkwardly and pursed her red lips. Then, she wanted to push Emo's son away gently. As she pushed, Luo Berry whispered, "I'm sorry." Luo Berry wanted to push Emo's son away, but unexpectedly, Emo's son suddenly hugged her tightly in his arms and hugged her even tighter. "You don't have to apologize to your own people," Emo's son suddenly said. "Own people?" Emo's son also said, "Don't meddle in other people's affairs." When these two sentences were put together, it was easy to misunderstand. Could it be that in his heart, she was already one of his own people? Luo Berry shook her head and blushed slightly. She was a little shy. Luo Berry suddenly raised her head. She was about to speak, but unexpectedly, the moment she raised her head, Emo's son was looking down. The height difference between Luo Berry and Emo's son was not very big. Although Luo Berry was much shorter than Emo, Senator Luo Berry's height could reach Emo Sen's ears by a little. When she raised her head, Luo Berry actually had something to say to Emo's Senator unexpectedly. The moment she raised her head, Luo Berry's eyes suddenly met Emo Sen's face, who was looking down at her. All of a sudden, she felt an ice-cold sensation on her lips. as well as the touch of soft lips. In the next breath, Luo Berry's eyes widened. She looked at Emo Sen's face that was magnified countless times in front of her eyes in shock. The moment she raised her head, Emo Sen happened to be looking down. In the unseen world, it was as if there was a red line that was pulling both of them. Luo Berry raised her head. She did not tiptoe and Emo Sen did not bend over. However, Emo Sen lowered his head to look at her. At this moment, Luo Berry suddenly raised her head. She could not stop in time. Her lips and Emo Sen's thin lips were pressed together. Just like that, the first kiss of their lives was gone in a blur. Blood Doll Organization. At this moment, Di Lin was holding Lung Mei down, continuing the 10 days and 10 nights he had promised last time. He was working towards 100 days and 100 nights. Ah. Leader. My waist, I can't take it anymore, I'm so thirsty. Ah. I want to go to the kitchen and get a glass of water. Is that okay? Lung Mei was being pressed onto the floor by Di Lin. Lung Mei held Di Lin with both hands and wanted to move towards the bed. After a while, Lung Mei leaned against the side of the bed and was pinned down by Di Lin. Hearing Lung Mei's words, Di Lin was even more annoyed. Go to the kitchen and get a glass of water. And then left me? This caused Lung Mei to scream continuously. An hour later, Lung Mei lay on Di Lin's chest. She pouted, thinking about how to escape from Di Lin. Although her Di Lin had confessed to her, this made Lung Mei very happy. But after being captured these few days, she was pressed onto the bed by Di Lin every day to do naughty things. Her waist was about to break. I miss playing mahjong with Qingyu and Gunyanji. She won every round and could make Qingyu and Gunyanji wash her clothes every time. What are you thinking about? Di Lin asked when he saw Lung Mei spacing out. Lung Mei looked afar, not realizing that her leader was asking her something. She opened her red lips and blurted out the words in her heart. Chapter 1862. Lung Mei's words were blurted out without any consideration at all. To be honest, at this moment, Lung Mei did not even consider who was lying beside her. Her divine sense had already flown off to God knows where. Di Lin was speechless. Did she just call him a beast? The pitiful thing was that Lung Mei didn't realize that Di Lin had already heard her inner monologue. Lung Mei's mind was still somewhere else. Her thoughts had already flown off somewhere. Mahjong or chief, which one should I choose? Di Lin held back his anger and asked Lung Mei, who was in a daze and would spit out whatever was on her mind. If she dared to choose mahjong, he would let her try. He would make sure that she would die of exhaustion in bed. Of course it's mahjong. Mahjong is so fun. With chief it's either that or that. I'm exhausted. Lung Mei said loudly without thinking. As soon as he finished speaking, Lung Mei suddenly reacted. She seemed to be lying on top of a warm body. Turning around, Lung Mei suddenly met Di Lin's handsome face. Lung Mei seemed to be shocked. She suddenly looked at Di Lin in a daze and wanted to stand up. Chief, I'm not leaving you. I just want to play mahjong. Di Lin suddenly grabbed Lung Mei and pinned her on the bed. A second before he kissed her, he said fiercely, "Don't even think about it." Endless lust, and the day was still long. 6-Star Empire Hotel, Brunei. There was a place in Brunei's 6-Star Empire Hotel where one could admire the sunset. The sunset here was very beautiful. The endless sea, coupled with the glow of the sunset, was beautiful beyond compare. After dinner, most guests of Brunei's 6-Star Empire Hotel would walk around there. Because of the beautiful scenery and the beautiful people, there were many people walking around. After dinner, Yin Jian followed the crowd here. Luo she had her own matters to attend to, so she left first. When Yin Jian arrived, she saw a few foreigners not far away. These foreigners were the ones who said that Yin Jian was overestimating herself in front of Jamil, and that Z people were always so arrogant. Yin Jian's deep eyes glinted at the sight of it. Phew. So you're here to enjoy the sunset as well? We heard that the sunset at Brunei Hotel is especially beautiful, so we came here too. Shen Li and Meng Tiantian were not surprised to see Yin Jian again. Meng Tiantian also restrained her young mistemper and didn't say much. In fact, Meng Tiantian didn't target Yin Jian from the beginning. She only asked Yunjian to accept her as a disciple because she was rich and could buy anything in the world. However, after the previous incidents, Meng Tiantian no longer spoke. What a coincidence! As the night breeze blew, it was slightly chilly by the sea. Yunjian tucked her hair behind her ears and did not ignore Shin Liwei and the others this time, greeting them instead. Shin Liwei and the others laughed. Yo! My Dan, isn't this the girl from Z country? At this moment, the foreigners who said that Yunjian was overestimating herself in front of Jamil, and that Z people were always so arrogant walked towards Yunjian. After a while, these people surrounded Yunjian. The strong man who said that Z people were always arrogant, and was called my Dan surrounded Yunjian, and looked at Yunjian with a mocking gaze. Little girl from Z country, listen up. If you know what's good for you, you'd better leave the hunting school yourself. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that you'll be able to leave the hunting school alive. My Dan saw that there were only a few kids around, so he threatened Yunjian. Yunjian looked into my Dan's eyes. She smiled coldly and suddenly slapped my Dan's face. Facing Yunjian's sudden slap, my Dan didn't have time to react. By the time these people reacted, Yunjian was already a few meters away. Chapter 1863. My Dan, who was slapped by Yunjian, heard Yunjian's words. His deep pupils shrunk slightly. My Dan was not an ordinary person after all. He quickly returned to normal and glared fiercely at Yunjian. Just then, a streak of bright red blood flowed out of my Dan's mouth. It was because Yunjian's slap was too strong and had hit a vital part of his body. My Dan, are you alright? The few men standing beside my Dan looked at my Dan worriedly. My Dan only waved his hand lightly to show that he was fine. After all, he was someone who had seen many things. My Dan strode forward and exchanged glances with Yunjian. Although he did not join his friends to surround Yunjian like before, he still spoke arrogantly to Yunjian. Little girl, you have some guts. Then let's see who's better in the hunting school. After saying that, my Dan snorted and left with his people with a sullen face. From the reactions of my Dan and his people just now, including the hunting school, which was isolated from the rest of the world, and had to sign a life and death agreement before entering. Even if no one said it out loud, if one were to unfortunately die after entering the hunting school, it would be hard to say whether it was man-made or a real unfortunate death. Yunjian, are you alright? Shin Liwei saw that my Dan had left and asked Yunjian worriedly. Do I look like someone who's not alright? Yunjian glanced sideways at Shin Liwei. Which country are they from? This is too brazen. This is too much. Don't tell me they're going to do something to you in the hunting school? Even a rich young lady like Meng Tiantian realized it. She looked at Yunjian fearfully and said in disbelief. To Meng Tiantian, who had been protected by her parents since she was young, what happened just now was beyond her imagination and tolerance. Yes. Yunjian did not beat around the bush. Then what should we do? Meng Tiantian looked at Yunjian and asked hesitantly, will you die? I won't. This time, Yunjian's reply was very straightforward. After she finished speaking, Yunjian tilted her head slightly and gave a cold smile. She took a big step forward and tilted her body slightly to cast a sidelong glance at Meng Tiantian. The corners of Yunjian's mouth curled up at just the right moment. She said coldly to Meng Tiantian and looked straight ahead, as if she already had a plan. That level of strength can't even be considered a threat. Those who are weaker than their opponents would never expose their killing intent in front of their opponents, allowing them to be on guard. He's not qualified. After that, Yunjian didn't say goodbye to Meng Tiantian and Shin Liwei. She left the noisy seaside and walked towards a secluded path. They walked along the serene path by the sea. It was a spacious sea just now, but now it was a serene coastal path. Yunjian enjoyed the sea breeze very much. The wind at night was chilly, but it gave people a dark and natural feeling. Whoosh! At the moment when there was no one around, Yunjian suddenly felt danger coming towards her. She bent down reflexively and stood up straight sideways. She dodged the sudden attack of 3 knives as fast as she could. Yin Jian's eyes darkened. After she dodged the attack of the 3 knives, her eyes had already scanned the distance and saw a black-robed figure running towards the seaside where Shen Liwei and Meng Tiantian were. Black robe? Mysterious person? Yin Jian's pupils shrank. She chased after the black-robed figure. Hey, isn't that Yin Jian? She seems to be chasing someone. Shen Liwei and the others, who were standing in the same place just now, didn't leave. Shen Liwei and the others were slightly surprised when they saw Yin Jian chasing after a black-robed figure with a mask on his face, and only a pair of eyes exposed. At this moment, Yin Jian had already somersaulted over the black-robed figure, and neatly arrived in front of the black-robed figure. She kicked the black-robed figure in the abdomen and kicked him to the ground. Then she strode forward and stomped on the black-robed figure's abdomen in front of everyone. Chapter 1864. Yin Jian couldn't tell whether the man in the black robe was the mysterious man or not. But Yin Jian could judge one thing. How could the mysterious man expose himself to her so easily? And the mysterious man's men were all dressed in black robes, just like the mysterious man. So the man in the black robe in front of her was, "Ha ha ha, our master is here. Welcome to the hunting school. He will leave a big surprise for you there." The man in the black robe was also wearing a black mask, revealing only a pair of eyes. Looking at the man's eyes, Yin Jian could see that he was expressionless when he spoke. As soon as the man in the black robe finished speaking, Yin Jian frowned slightly and said, "Puppet." The man in the black robe was a puppet without his own emotions, and his task should be to send a message to her from the mysterious man. Yin Jian, who is he? Could it be those foreigners who were so smug just now? They actually attacked you? That's too much. Are you all right? Shen Liwei and the others saw this and hurried over from a distance. There were many people around the beach, most of whom came for a walk after dinner. Yin Jian's eyes were sharp for a while. The next second, she suddenly shouted at Shen Liwei and the others. "Everyone run 100 meters away from here immediately. Move fast." What's going on? Meng Tiantian was stunned for a moment. Shen Liwei had already grabbed Meng Tiantian's hand and led his friends to run 100 meters away. No matter why Yin Jian said so, they just did it. Shen Liwei was really smart. And Yin Jian's words were not said to Shen Liwei and the others alone. But the people around were still stupefied and didn't move. Obviously, they didn't know the reason. Why should they run? And Yin Jian was a stranger to these people. Imagine a stranger who kicked a man away like a lunatic a second ago, and then asked everyone to run. Was this person crazy? "Yin Jian, what's going on?" Just then, Chen Yang and Ding Jianlin, who came with Yin Jian from Z country, came over with a group of special forces from other countries who had made friends with them after chatting for a while. Seeing Yin Jian, Chen Yang asked, "He has a bomb on him." Yin Jian didn't try to persuade the people around her to leave. Seeing that they didn't listen, she didn't hurry to reply to Chen Yang. Instead, she sneered and said what she wanted to say. As soon as these words came out, the faces of the surrounding group of people turned green with fright. But there were also people who didn't believe it. Of course, Chen Yang and Ding Jianlin would not leave Yin Jian alone. The two of them, as well as the special forces from other countries who were also going to the hunting school, all followed up. At this moment, Yin Jian had already lifted the jacket of this expressionless black-robed man. The black cloak was lifted, and it was as she had expected. The black-robed man's waist and thighs were filled with rows of timed explosives. The stopwatch on the timer was jumping crazily. At this moment it showed 1 minute left. Until they saw the explosives and the timer on the black-robed man, the crowd began to panic. Then they started to run quickly, and soon they all ran away. At this moment, Chen Yang and Ding Jianlin were stunned, and then they came over with a few special forces friends they had just made. What's going on? Someone frowned and asked. "He has explosives on his body, and he wants to kill me." Yin Jian stepped on the black-robed man who didn't say anything after saying that sentence, and sneered. "Then what are you waiting for? Run." A foreigner exclaimed. "The explosives are very powerful. Even if we run 100 meters away, we can't be sure that we can ignore them. We have to dismantle them. As Yunjian said, she turned her hand. Holding the butterfly knife in her right hand, she quickly pulled out the 3 red, yellow and blue wires of the timed explosives. I know something about dismantling bombs. Step aside, I'll do it. Seeing that Yunjian was going to dismantle the bombs, a man panicked and walked over. He wanted to exchange places with Yunjian, so that he could dismantle the bombs himself. Yunjian didn't let him. She curled her lips and didn't look up. Her hands and attention were all on dismantling the bombs, but she still said, "Tsar bomb model RDS 202. It's the latest bomb, very powerful. If you dismantle it by mistake, we will be smashed into pieces. Are you sure you want to dismantle it?" Chapter 1865. Just now, when the man hesitated, Yunjian directly cut off 2 of the densely packed red, yellow, and blue lines on the black-robed man's body without hesitation. When they heard about the Tsar bomb, the surrounding people were stunned. What is the Tsar bomb? That is the bomb known as the king of bombs. It's so powerful that basically anyone who knows about it or likes guns and ammunition will definitely recognize the Tsar bomb. And the man who just said that he knew how to defuse the bomb only knew a little about it. When he heard that this bomb was actually the Tsar bomb, the man's body froze and he hesitated. The faces of the surrounding people changed. However, Yunjian didn't give them a chance to think more. She raised her butterfly knife and took out a blue and red line from the complicated red, yellow, and blue lines and cut it on the spot with the butterfly knife. Yunjian's move didn't give anyone a chance to react at all. When he saw Yunjian cut the line, the man who just said that he would defuse the bomb almost screamed directly, "No! Don't cut it. It will explode." At this moment, no one had time to think about why Yunjian knew so much about this bomb. No one thought about why Yunjian found the 3 lines of the bomb in the first place. However, at this moment, Yunjian cut it directly. The man who knew a little about bomb defusing directly covered his eyes at this moment, not daring to watch what happened next. Everyone knows that when you defuse a bomb, if you defuse the wrong line, it will only detonate the bomb in advance. There was only 1 minute left for the bomb timer. Ordinary bomb defusing experts would think about it and couldn't make up their minds. If they really didn't have full confidence, they would have to disperse the surrounding crowd to minimize the damage, and their group would be the last to evacuate. But Yunjian, she's good. How can there be a bomb defusing expert like her? She found 2 lines and cut them with a butterfly knife without even thinking about it. What if she defused the wrong line? This is the Tsar bomb. Once the Tsar bomb explodes, its power can blow up the people standing next to the bomb, until not even their bones are left. This was the power of a bomb. There were no skeletons to be seen. However, Yunjian directly cut 2 of the strings. Everyone closed their eyes as they felt the arrival of the Grim Reaper. 1 second later. 2 seconds later. 10 seconds later. Everyone slowly opened their eyes. They didn't die? Did he survive the terrifying Tsar bomb, or did Yunjian successfully defuse the bomb? The answer, without a doubt, was the latter. Really? You really dismantled the Tsar bomb? The man who said that he knew how to defuse the bomb looked at Yunjian in disbelief and said slowly, she had successfully dismantled the Tsar bomb. The people around them were all highly skilled special forces soldiers. Naturally, they were more receptive to things that defied common sense. A few seconds later, they all accepted that Yunjian had just defused the bomb. Is that surprising? Yunjian glared at the man who had been talking to her. It's the Tsar bomb. You can actually defuse it. To be honest, I really didn't have any confidence just now. The man who knew how to defuse the bomb scratched his head. Then the man paused and introduced himself to Yunjian. Hello, my name is Jowett. I'm from country Y. Seeing that even Jowett had greeted Yunjian, the group of men around them all expressed their friendliness to Yunjian. Especially Yunjian's amazing strength just now. The doubts of the people around Yunjian's age and strength when they first saw her were no longer doubted at this moment. Yunjian nodded. She defused the row of timed explosives and threw them on the ground. Seeing that Yun Jian had defused the explosives so easily, Jowett swallowed his saliva and asked, "You seem to be very familiar with the structure of the Tsar bomb." Chapter 1866. Gulping hard, Jowett and the others around him labeled Yun Jian a new label. This little girl must be a monster. Yes, she must be a monster. Such a powerful monster. Then what should we do with him? Jowett and the others asked Yun Jian when they snapped back to reality and looked at the man in the black robe. What should they do with this man in the black robe? He actually dared to surround explosives in public. This matter must be reported to the police. A man said angrily. It's too late to call the police. Yun Jian stood up straight and looked down at the man in the black robe under her foot. She suddenly said. Hearing this, the people around were confused. Why is it too late? A man around asked in surprise. What did Yun Jian mean? Before Yun Jian could react, the man in the black robe lying on the ground suddenly bled from his orifices and stopped breathing after a while. How did he die? Seeing this, the people around pointed at the man in the black robe and asked Yun Jian. At this moment, Yun Jian seemed to have become a god who knew everything. A group of men seemed to have become primary school students who knew nothing, and were waiting for the teacher to teach them one by one. He's just a puppet. If the mission fails, he won't live. If the mission succeeds, he will die. Just now, he just bit the suicide poison hidden in his gums. Yun Jian retracted her leg. She had a general understanding of the situation. The mysterious man, of course, knew that he would not die in the explosives. He sent such a puppet to find her just to pass on the message just now. And the row of explosives just now was a greeting gift from the mysterious man. A greeting gift? Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. She would like to see what the big surprise the mysterious man left for her in the hunting school was. This matter, of course, shocked the police. Later, Yun Jian and the others showed their identities and were released by the police. 3 days later, everyone gathered at the entrance of the 6-star hotel in Brunei. Jamil also arrived as promised. Are you all ready? Jamil narrowed his eyes as he looked at everyone present and suddenly asked. Everyone agreed. Seeing this, Jamil let everyone get on his bus and headed to the hunting school. The hunting school was located in the tropical jungle of Venezuela. There were very few people here. The hunting school had built a house in the tropical jungle of Venezuela. It was not luxurious. However, there were all kinds of training tools here. Yun Jian followed the crowd and came here. As soon as she arrived at the hunting school, she narrowed her eyes. This place was still the same as before, simple and crude. From today onwards, I'm your chief instructor. You'll get your own random number later. You are not allowed to address each other by name here. If the academy suspends training for 48 hours, regardless of the reason, it will be considered as an automatic forfeit. Jamil stood in front of the crowd and spoke solemnly. With that, Jamil turned his head and looked to the side. Instead, he saw a tall, handsome man about 25 years old walking over from a small, dilapidated house next to him. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes slightly when she saw the man. Jamil pointed at the man and introduced him to the people present. This is your deputy instructor. His name is Lin Wei. That's right, he is one of the 4 leaders of the Inhun organization. He is in charge of the Inhun organization's assassin training camp. He has trained countless terrifying figures in the world. Slaying God, the #1 on the secret agent ranking, was also trained by him. Under his training, you will become very outstanding. However, the premise is that you have to endure all the pain and tiredness. Chapter 1867. Lin Wei scanned the crowd with his sharp eyes and finally paused on Yun Jian for 2 seconds before he looked past her. That cold look was as if nothing in this world could stop or attract him. He looked at Yun Jian more because the young master had instructed him that no matter what, he must not let Yun Jian lose a single hair. Otherwise he, Lin Wei, would be the one who lost a hair. Lin Wei was naturally calm and steady, even more so than Mo Senator naturally. He would not address Yun Jian as the young madam in such an occasion. Yin Jian's first reaction when she saw Lin Wei was not to ask why he was here. But, what a coincidence! As slaying god in her previous life, she was trained by Lin Wei. Now that she had come to the hunting school in this life, she had become Lin Wei's subordinate? This coincidence really made one not know whether to laugh or cry. After Jamil finished speaking and got the response from the crowd, he got someone to distribute a number plate to each of them. After the number plate was distributed, Jamil continued, "Have you received the number plate in your hands? From today onwards, it will be your name." She flipped the number plate and saw two legitimately written numbers floating in front of her eyes. 16. Her number was 16. Although it was not 06, it was still related to 6. "Lin Wei, what do you have to say?" After Jamil finished speaking, he passed the initiative to Lin Wei. Lin Wei looked around the scene and only said one sentence. "I'll do my best to torture you. It's up to you whether you can take it or not." Other than that, he did not say anything else. Yin Jian blinked. This was Lin Wei's character. He was a man of few words and his words hit the nail on the head. Everyone present gulped but did not make a sound. "Today is your first day in the hunting school. I'll show you an exciting show on this first day." Jamil suddenly narrowed his eyes and clapped his hands. Not long after, a huge lion was pushed out of a cage and placed in a huge cage in front of everyone. There was also a slender girl about 18 or 19 years old, who was pulled out from the side by Jamil's subordinates. This girl was very beautiful, with a pair of sharp sky blue eyes. She was as delicate as a doll. After the girl was pushed out, she glared fiercely at Jamir. Then, not long after, the girl was pushed into a huge cage. At this moment, the lion was released. It locked eyes with the young girl. Everyone standing in place could feel that this lion had been roaring. Clearly, it had been hungry for a long time. Hunger made the lion roar twice on the ground and pounce towards the young girl. Yin Jian blinked at the sight. The moment Lin Wei saw the girl appear, his eyes moved, but he didn't say anything. The young girl was chased by the lion for a while. Suddenly, her thigh was bitten. She was in so much pain that her whole body was numb. However, she stubbornly stretched out her other leg and kicked the lion in the eye. She turned over and stood up. Yin Jian seemed to see her past self in the girl. Even if she was seriously injured, she had to stand up stubbornly and continue fighting. Because once you fall, you will never have the chance to stand up again. No one can save you. The only one who can save you is yourself. The girl did not look at the wound on her thigh. She was forced into a corner, but her eyes were fixed on the lion. Clearly, before this, the girl had experienced inhuman treatment and understood the principle of the winner being king. No one could save her. The lion roared and pounced at the girl again. At this moment, the girl was covered in blood. She screamed and also pounced at the lion. However, the moment she was about to meet the lion's eyes, a blade appeared in her hand. She turned over from the lion's stomach and slashed the blade across the lion's head, killing the lion on the spot. Clap, clap, clap. At this moment, Jamil suddenly narrowed his eyes and clapped. Then he said mercilessly as if he was enjoying a show, "What a wonderful performance." This performance made everyone's hair stand on end. Bang. At this moment, Yin Jian saw Lin Wei kick open the huge cage and walk in front of the girl. Lin Wei pulled up the girl who had fallen to the ground as if she was paralyzed. Then he looked at her with his usual cold gaze. Under the gazes of Yin Jian and everyone else, he suddenly said without allowing her to refute. Chapter 1868. Lin Wei's sudden words shocked everyone present. Even Yin Jian, who stood in the distance and watched the girl in the huge cage fight with the lion without saying a word, blinked. These words that Lin Wei said were truly incessant to shock people to death with his words. If Shuang was here, he would probably burst out laughing. Not long ago, Shuang had asked Lin Wei when he would find a woman to carry on his family line. Today, Lin Wei walked in front of this young girl and directly asked her, "Are you willing to marry me and give birth to my children?" How could marrying a wife be so casual? Lin Wei did not have any requirements for his other half. He walked up to the girl just now purely because the girl's actions just now were to his liking. To Lin Wei, As long as his other half did not cheat, he would not find any other woman except for her. There was no sex involved. It was enough to simply carry on the family line. Moreover, he was already 25 years old. It was time to carry on the family line. Seeing that the girl met his requirements just now, Lin Wei came over and said those words just now. Yun Jian, who was in the distance, blinked and watched with her arms crossed. The group of special forces from all over the world standing next to them, as well as the head of the hunting school and the chief instructor, Mijil, were all stunned. He saw the girl, who had just fought a lion and was now lying on the ground in a sorry state, covered in wounds. Her clothes, which were not luxurious to begin with, had been torn in the fight with the lion. She raised her head and was pulled up by Lin Wei. She looked at Lin Wei with a pair of surprised eyes. The girl was very beautiful. She had a pair of sky blue eyes, regular facial features, and was very thin. At first glance, people would want to protect her, especially the girl's pair of stubborn and unyielding eyes, as if she would do her best to survive. The girl's appearance was no different from the people of Z country. The only difference was probably her pair of sky blue eyes. However, this pair of sky blue eyes was exquisite and beautiful to the extreme. Unlike cosmetic contact lenses, this pair of pure sky blue eyes had a natural and fresh beauty. 189. Come out now. You did a good job surviving from the lion's mouth just now. Master Lin Wei was joking with you. Could it be that you've never looked at yourself properly? How can someone like you be worthy of Lord Lin Wei? Before Jamil could say anything, one of his subordinates standing next to him roared at the girl on the other side. 189 was the girl's number and name. The man next to Jamil was called Buddy. The girl had been personally trained by Buddy, and Buddy had been coveting the girl's beauty for a long time. Previously, he had never found a chance to make a move on the girl. Buddy had planned to wait until the girl was about to be sent out of the hunting school to possess her. But he didn't expect Lin Wei to stand up and say such words to the young girl. Therefore, Buddy immediately spoke up. In the hunting school, the status of the students was not high. This was especially true for people like the young girl, who had been caught and trained here for more than 10 years for no reason. Her status was even lower than a dog's. Hearing Buddy's words, the girl's body trembled, but she didn't walk towards Buddy. The girl wasn't stupid. She clearly knew that Buddy was up to no good. Seeing this, Buddy cursed and pulled out a long leather whip from his waist. He walked towards the girl and said, F***ck your mother, you don't even listen to me? Lord Lin Wei took pity on you, and you're taking advantage of him? This girl is still a virgin. I haven't even touched her yet. Buddy thought to himself. But Buddy was weaker than Lin Wei, so he naturally had to be respectful and find other reasons to take her back. I'm willing. As long as you take me out of here, I'm willing to do anything. The girl was clearly afraid of Buddy. She suddenly knelt down in front of Lin Wei and grabbed his hand. F***ck you're rebelling. Seeing this, Buddy was about to charge over aggressively. There was a steep slope here, and at the bottom of the slope was a huge cage. Buddy passed by Yun Jian, and was about to jump down the slope when Yun Jian suddenly stretched out her leg and kicked Buddy's back, kicking him down the slope. Buddy couldn't react in time, and was kicked down the slope by Yun Jian. He fell face first like a frog and couldn't stand up for a long time. After all, this was the hunting school, the territory of Buddy's group. Seeing that Yun Jian didn't restrain herself, everyone was terrified. However, Yun Jian's cold voice rang out. Sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. Chapter 1869. After Yun Jian said that, Buddy, who had wanted to jump down the steep slope but couldn't react in time after being kicked in the back by Yun Jian, fell down the slope like a frog. His face was smashed hard on the ground, and he couldn't say a word. Now that he heard Yun Jian's words, his expression was as ugly as if he had eaten dog poop. The worst thing was that Buddy's face was smashed hard. His mouth was smashed by the rocks at the bottom of the steep slope, and he couldn't say a word. Jamil didn't say anything when he saw this. Buddy was Jamil's subordinate, but Jamil wouldn't protect him. This was a place where the strong preyed on the weak. Even Buddy would be eyeing Jamil's position like a tiger eyeing its prey. He would attack Jamil at the first opportunity. In this place, everyone could only live for themselves. When Buddy got up from the ground and turned to look at Yunjian, he glared at Yunjian fiercely and said to Yunjian in his own language, "When I'm at the hunting school, I'll start from scratch. No matter how powerful you were in my hunting school, you will have to start from zero here. Little girl, I will remember this kick of yours." From the start, everyone had been speaking in Spanish. Everyone had learned Spanish before coming here. The hunting school was located in the tropical jungle of Venezuela. Any student who entered this place would have to sign a life and death agreement. This meant that even if Buddy did something to Yunjian behind her back, no one would question her death. Hence, people who could leave this place alive were usually so powerful that they were invincible. Or they had to hide their abilities. They couldn't be the weakest person, nor could they fight for the strongest. Buddy remembered Yunjian's name. At this moment, Buddy didn't know that Yunjian and Lin Wei knew each other. He also didn't know that Yunjian was the young madam of the Enhun organization. Lin Wei had already taken the young lady's hand and pulled her out of the huge cage. Buddy turned his head and saw Lin Wei holding the young lady's hand. He knew that his plans for the young lady were ruined. Who was Lin Wei? He was one of the 4 leaders of Enhun. No matter how insensible Buddy was, he would never dare to snatch Lin Wei's woman. Originally, he just wanted everyone present to see a good show between the lion and the girl, but he didn't expect Lin Wei to take the girl away. Jamil narrowed his eyes and didn't say much. Actually, to Lin Wei, if the girl had refused just now, he wouldn't have forced her. All he wanted was a woman who could reproduce for him. That was it. Moreover, the task of reproducing could not be delayed. Jamil wanted everyone to watch the battle between the girl and the lion. He wanted them to understand the survival rules of the hunting school on their first day in the hunting school. No one can protect you here. You have to protect yourself. Strong enough to survive. Just like the girl from before. It was also because of the inhumane training in the hunting school that people who graduated from here would become the future pillars of the country. The incident with the young girl was just an accident. On the first day of school, Jamil didn't say much and let everyone return to their bedrooms. Because all of them were men, and Yunjian was an exception. Yunjian was arranged to be opposite the male dormitory. Yunjian had just walked into the dormitory when she saw the girl who was taken away by Lin Wei. There were 4 shabby beds and 3 empty beds in the dormitory. Only the young girl's bed was filled with simple and crude items. Seeing Yunjian, the girl was stunned, but she quickly remembered that Yunjian was the one who helped her kick Buddy just now. The girl immediately thanked Yunjian. Thank you for just now. The girl was taken away by Lin Wei just now, and later she begged him to let her go back to her dormitory. Lin Wei's dormitory was full of men, and the girl was still a little afraid. After living in the hunting academy for so many years, it was unbelievable that he could keep his chastity. The girl had suffered a lot so far, and even almost died. So naturally, she wouldn't trust anyone easily. Even if she agreed to Lin Wei's request, it would only be a delaying tactic for the girl. How could the girl not know Buddy's feelings for her? No need to thank me. Yunjian continued after the girl finished speaking. After that, Yunjian turned to look at the girl and asked for her name, which was rare. What's your name? Chapter 1870. Yi Ling, as her name suggested, was very beautiful. Her sky-blue eyes seemed to be able to speak. Even Yunjian couldn't help but take a few more glances at her. At this moment, Yi Ling was wearing loose, fluffy, and tattered clothes from head to toe. Although the clothes she was wearing and her disheveled appearance were much better than when she fought the lion. After tidying up and tidying herself up, she didn't look much better. Yunjian knew that this was Yi Ling's way of protecting herself. If Yi Ling didn't make herself look bad, she would have been defiled by the men here. My name is Yunjian. I'm from country Z. Yunjian briefly introduced herself. Then, she turned over and laid on one of the empty beds. She put down her backpack and closed her eyes to rest. Yi Ling saw that Yunjian closed her eyes, but she still nodded at Yunjian. Then, she sat on her bed and pondered. After a while, Yunjian opened her eyes. Yiling saw that Yunjian opened her eyes. It seemed that she hadn't found someone to talk to for a long time. Therefore, she asked Yunjian carefully, "Did you enter the hunting school on your own accord?" Hearing Yiling's careful question, Yunjian nodded, "Yes." "Why? Why did you enter the hunting school on your own accord? It's very scary here. We all want to leave," Yiling asked in confusion. "For strength. To be more powerful." Yunjian narrowed her eyes. Everyone's values and pursuits were different. Some hoped to be a doctor in the future. Some hoped to be a teacher in the future. Yunjian, on the other hand, pursued supreme strength. After hearing Yunjian's words, Yiling was silent for a while. Then she continued, "If you didn't ask for my name, I would have almost forgotten mine. I've been here since I was very young. 189 is my name. The women who are caught here either become objects for others to admire, just like when I was fighting the lion just now. Their lives are in danger at any time. Then I'll be a slave to those men." Yiling clenched her fists in anger when she heard the word slave. After a moment of silence, Yiling breathed a sigh of relief and said to Yunjian, "The other women in the dormitory are all like me. They have been here since they were very young. But other than me, they all chose to be men's release tools." As for her, she was struggling bitterly. This was not the first time she had fought a lion, and she was covered in wounds every time. No one would sympathize with Yiling. If she did not leave this place, there would only be two outcomes for her. She could either compromise and become a tool for all the men here to vent their frustrations, just like the women in the other dormitories. Or, they would fight the beasts endlessly until they died at the beasts' mouths due to exhaustion. There were originally 4 people in this room, but now I'm the only one left. Yiling sighed. Yiling didn't know why she was so talkative today. She told Yunjian everything she knew. After saying this, she felt that she was a little stupid. Why did she say so much? Okay. At this moment, Yunjian responded softly. Yunjian usually didn't pay attention to others. If she responded to Yiling, it meant that she already treated Yiling as Linwei's woman. Bang! At this moment, the door of Yunjian and Yiling's dormitory was suddenly kicked open. A woman led a group of women in fiercely through the door. The woman stepped on a broken stool in Yiling's dormitory as soon as she entered. She said rudely, "That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."